it cost the university, and I will not be doing justice to the South African public if I was to give you a figure without proper context, Chair. But the investigation was an outcome of a set of allegations against staff members in the institution. Particularly important was allegations related to progression matters, access matters, and completion matters at the College of Health Sciences. But it wasn't just limited to that. The notion of a syndicate was at the inception of the investigation, and I should say that it was before my time. I came on to bring it to an end in a way. But the syndicate was supposed to have infiltrated the institution, and there were a number of individuals that were then under investigation at the time of my engagement. We moved very quickly to provide a strategy, and mostly exit strategy, because the finances was just escalating out of all proportions. The exit strategy was to deal with the internal matters that were verifiably disciplinary matters, and to park the external matters related to syndicates with the rightful state structures. That should have been how it should have functioned from the beginning. But because they conflated those two strategic directions, the institution almost assumed the role of trying to supplement the state with its own resources. So we were trying very hard to get to an endpoint of proving a hypothesis around the syndicate, rather than dealing with the internal malfeasance that was in front of us, and then parking whatever arose from that with the rightful structures of the state. That was the strategy we adopted. And we then moved to discipline the members of staff. I think in total there was about 18. Virtually all of them left the institution either through the discipline process or resignation. But the cost of the colliery structures that was put in place, securitization of individuals and securitization of data, and the cost of data mining and the allied investigation was quite considerable. And so the institution found itself certainly in 2019 having invested north, and I'll say north advisedly because I will provide you with that figure. I wasn't expecting to get necessarily that question in terms of actual figure, but it will be north of probably 130 million that was spent on this matter in totality.
No, thanks, VC. Maybe not to dwell on this matter, but I thought it was important because I think I do have an idea, at least at that time, one wasn't still in the institution. So I thought one should really follow up. If I had to focus on this matter, I think I'll take my whole 20 minutes, Chair. But I asked about then the other matter that would have surfaced in the process. It is estimated that at least 70 million was spent on the subject student at the time. I've also got information recently that the student would have even attempted to reapply for readmission because the allegation was around the fact that that student had one module outstanding, but the student ultimately got a degree and the institution doesn't know how. But the student is not criminally charged to date, if what we are told is true. And that's about 6 to 7 years later. So I would want to get maybe perhaps from someone responsible, if the student did indeed try to reapply pending the investigation and was rejected readmission to do that, if there is a criminal charge or not, and if indeed the allegations that there is at least 70 million that has been spent in pursuit of either criminal or court proceedings or court litigation against that one aspect of the investigation is accurate or not. then I think from there I'll be able to move from this topic. Otherwise, I think other things, Chair, if Vice Chancellor is saying that the report is concluded and is ready, I do not know whether we'll be able to be finished with it unless it's still a subject of the court or other institutional bodies. Then I think we'll leave it at that for now. Over to you, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you very much indeed, Honourable Member. We'll be very transparent in sending you a report on the matter that addresses the issues that you've raised. I wasn't given privy to bring the details here, but we haven't hidden it. And if it is indeed under any sort of legal prescript, we'll also indicate where that is, and we can deal with that bilaterally.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you, VC. SRC, in your submission, I just have one question, because I think all the things that you are raising is things that would have heard in other institutions, and it's obviously genuine issues and a genuine outcry that must be addressed. But I think just one. Do you have a list of the students' accommodation or private students' accommodation that are accredited by NSFAS that you would have visited, maybe through a list that you know that these ones, we can give it to you that there's these issues of essential utilities that we won't find when you go there, especially those of security, water and other utilities that should be there, that NSFAS is paying for. The chair had made an example of what we saw in Kandla. There is 3,300 per bed in a place that no student should live in. So if we have similar conditions, which we know we do, because the people that the chair is referring to are the same people that are credited across the spectrum. So we want to name and shame, which is going to be very soon, but we also want to go and do justice in ensuring that we see these residences. And then as per the recommendation of this committee to say that that NSFAS must do an exercise of ensuring that they go themselves to do justice or take them to review, or rather just do an observation of all these residences or private accommodations, as it were, that are housing students that are being paid by NSFAS. So do we have a list?
Thank you. With me now, I don't have a list now,
But you can get it.
but I can get it because we've got 5 campuses and they have various. So if you can just give me your email, I can just send it to you.
Okay. I will then interact after this, but if you could just send it to us through the portfolio committee secretary, that it would also be fine.
Okay, no problem.
The measures to curb incidents of GBV is noted and is very progressive in its format here. But I would want to maybe find out if we can get a report of the last 2 years of cases of gender-based violence that have been reported, and how many have been resolved, and how far are they, if there are still others that are being processed. If you can just get that report, I think, during the course of our session, because I'm sure that you'd have that on your records. And then there's been for quite some time reports of shortages of medicine and staff in campus clinics. I'm not really sure. I think it should be DVC Student Services that can respond to this. What is the current status of your campus clinics, the staff, and the shortage of medication that has been an outcry of students for quite some time? DVC.
Honourable Member, it's actually that particular unit sits under the DVC for Health Sciences, if I may direct it to it.
Professor Ngam.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, for the question.
Okay, sorry, Prof. Just maybe wish to answer so that you just combine with the two. When we did the walkabout, there was a report that this required more space in autonomy there, and you have been aware, and management has been aware, and there's vacant space where you could have assisted them with the space. So just combine the two, please.
To build on the question that was asked
In terms
by
of the campus
my
clinics, they were
colleague.
handed over to the College of Health Sciences after 2020 because of the problems that were there. And the plan was that because we have a College of Health Sciences, we've got all the facilities, we run in hospitals and everything, we should be the ones that are responsible for them. I'm very happy to say we haven't had a strike since then about this particular issue. And I can really say that we have not had any medicine shortage, unless at some stage we did have an issue with the contraceptives, because those are supplied to us by the Department of Health.
No, that's fine.
So that was the one, but since then we haven't had any shortages in terms of medicines, as far as I
The
know.
one of autonomy, please.
The one of anatomy,
Anatomy.
I thought I would talk to this item at a later stage, because we do have a plan. And I must say, I've become very used to this during accreditation visits, when academics see external colleagues, then they want to complain. So we have a plan to use the Oval building. And we already have put together a business plan and a proposal which has gone to the VC to move all the health sciences, because we have run out of space in the health sciences. I think you would have heard from all of them when we were going around that we have had to double our numbers over the last few years. And because when this university was built, it wasn't built for that for those like numbers of students. So we have come. The ideal thing for us, I must say, would be to have our own campus as a College of Health Sciences, where we can consolidate and be together. And we would like to also have an academic hospital attached to it. But because of funding issues, we cannot do that. And we've discussed it with the Vice Chancellor that we are going to take over the Oval. Yes, we will go through structural reforms. I mean, we are engaging structural engineers because they can look at everything. We do have a business plan that we've worked on, and colleagues know. And but because that is going to take time, they are looking at the current problem.
No, that's
In terms of, let me just address the building that they say is behind them. That building is not owned by the College of Health Sciences. It's owned by Agriculture, Engineering and Science. And I have personally written to the DVC. We have viewed the spaces, but the college has said they've got plans for it. And that's why, for me, the best thing is to consolidate in Oval.
DVC for this, that there is a contracted service provider, Ongoti, I don't know Ongoti what, but it's Ongoti, is contracted with the institution, but now the director of that particular contractor is now acting as executive director of risk management services, RMS. Is this correct? And if so, was there a process that was followed in doing this recruitment, shortlisting, all of those things? Yes, the director's name is outside, is everywhere where we are going. We saw him outside.
Thank you very much indeed, Honourable Member. Yes, there was a process put in place. We have followed our procurement process 3 times in the past, at the time when the institution was most unstable, to try and source an executive director for that space. And as you know, it's a very contested space. I had to part company with the previous director because we lost faith in his abilities and his honesty for the institution.
So if there was a process, could we just get the report, the entire
There was a
report of the
process, I could get that, that's right. There was a process for it, that's right.
Check.
Bisi. Msezana asked the question from the middle. At the beginning of the question should be, this director was working here first. Is that true?
He is currently overseeing the space for us, yes, that is true.
No, he used to work here.
This particular director used to work here, yes.
And then he had a disciplinary case against him which did not conclude.
I was not aware of that. There has been no disciplinary case that's brought to my attention since I became Vice Chancellor.
Okay, so you don't vet risk management services as a very serious. It's head of security. It's so a person like that has not been vetted.
Honorable Chair, that was not my response. My response is that we've done the due diligence, but what you stated has not been brought to my attention. We did not find anything untoward.
Yeah, but I'm saying when you vet, you'll find this thing. If you have vetted this person
We have vetted him, yes.
and this did not come out,
It did not come up, no.
what is the company that was used to vet?
Well, we've gone through a process of looking at the members' history with us, and if there was an institutional case against them, we would know that there is no institutional case against the member.
So according to your records,
That's right.
you are saying the member did not leave the institution.
Nothing has been brought to my attention. If it has been, I would have done, unless, to the best of my knowledge, there is nothing at all on towards with the institution at the point when I entertained bringing that
That's very
member.
strange. That's very strange. Because it can be because the person had charges preferred against him initially resigned before that process could conclude. And then you guys brought him back. When you brought him back, by the way, with this Ukzn, it was to manage, was it the residences or a campus?
Oh, it wasn't to manage a residence or campus. Initially, I think the engagement with Ongoti was to actually inspect residences for
Yeah.
accreditation.
That's
And that
to
was also
accredit
through, yeah, that's absolutely right.
the residences. So he comes in as a director of this, what do you call it? A company, consultant company. And then whilst doing that job, you guys then appoint him.
Chair, he's not appointed to the substantive role. At the moment, we have not appointed him. He's overseeing that space for us while we look for a suitable candidate.
What do you mean overseeing? What is that?
That means that we've appointed through a delegated authority process and through the normal processes of the delegation of authority to management, a company that we had a clear brief for to assist with the security and stabilization of our campuses, and they were the ones that we opted to go with. But the individual is not sitting as a member of staff.
Okay, so because this thing is confusing, I'm trying to make sense of what you're saying. So this person comes in with the consultant company to accredit residences. That's not what he's doing now. He's doing something else.
A separate process. Your initial question was how he came into the institution. How Ongoti came into the institution was initially to accredit residences.
Okay, and then after that part, you guys gave them, extended some scope. What was it?
It was an extension of scope. It was an entirely different. At that time, we were in a crisis of trying to find a reputable firm to actually help us with our complex security needs. And that was the process and the process itself went through EBSCO as well, Council. Yeah. It wasn't just bilaterally done by management.
So they were appointed to
That's right.
head security.
Yeah, and the context, Chair, is that the university is currently going through restructuring, so we wanted to make sure that we actually had stable systems in place to oversee security of our countries. And we did not have confidence that the process of recruitment had produced any single individual who had the requisite skills to be tasked with the complexities of our university.
So this company is appointed firstly to accredit the residences, and it's now appointed to do security. Well, this company is a jack of all trades. From a corporate governance point of view, Chair of Council, you guys are saying you don't see anything wrong. Tomorrow, this company, at this rate, it might be appointed to fix lights. Because this is what, it's a jack of all trades. They are doing one thing, tomorrow they are doing another, and there's nothing wrong. So the internal SCM process, if it was followed, does not pick up that. We might, I mean, from a corporate governance point of view, colleagues, are we saying this makes sense? Or maybe it's me who's not okay.
Chair, your discomfort expressed as is would be problematic, but the reality of where we started and where we ended are slight. It was not a continuous leap. In the ecosystem, particularly in KZN, it is very difficult to get reputable people to do particular tasks. And this firm was already a security firm. When we did the inspections, they were a security firm. That was not the nature of how we engaged them initially.
So it's a firm that specializes in security.
That's right, and safety, yes.
And then how did they get into accreditation?
The accreditation was an innovation by us. That was the first time the universities actually tried to bring systems in place to ensure that the private provision that we had was maintained at a level consistent with our internal provision. And we needed an external pair of eyes to be able to do that fairly and effectively with us, for us.
So you headhunted them?
No, it wasn't a process of headhunting. We were, at the time of need, management went out for expression of interest, and we did not get anyone that we thought was sufficiently empowered to do that. When they came in, the results were very, very different. We were able to normalize the external landscape, and our students were the beneficiaries of that. That process then enabled the university to look at their capabilities, but that wasn't the reason we brought them in.
Yeah, so you advertised for companies to apply that deals with student accreditation. You don't find anybody. Then you go to somebody who does not deal with accreditation, you find somebody. I'm sure you understand where we come from when we say that doesn't sound right. Few years later, you go for what they specialize in, which is security. You plug them there. Once they are plugged there, this guy, who's a director, is now removed. What is the word you used? Overseas. You take them from this company, they now oversee a department of an institution.
Chair, the complexities of the security space, particularly UKZN, was that we insourced significant numbers of staff in that space who were neither trained nor equipped to deal with the complexities we had in the past. From 2016 to 2020, the results are quite stark compared to post that. We think the interventions we put in place, that includes them, have been effective for the betterment of the institution and for the country at large. The processes that were followed were not necessarily irregular. There was nothing irregular in the process. But I'll look into the matters you're raising now, and I'll come back to you if I find anything untowards.
Before, Honorable Lonzi.
Sorry, Chair, I know I've got my own term. I just want to understand something here quickly, with your permission. The university obviously has a process to appoint a director of RMS. And I think at the center of the question of Honorable Msezane, I hope I'm getting it right, is whether or not that particular process was followed. And I think this is where the question of the chair then comes in to say, did you headhunt? And is that within the process that is already established within the University of KwaZulu-Natal? So I think there are two very important things that we need to establish. Number one, is there a process in the university statutes to appoint or to employ a director of RMS? Second question, was that particular process followed? And if that process was not followed, which other piece of legislation or statute did the university follow to deviate from the standard procedure that must be followed when it comes to appointments?
Chair, this matter and the nature of it coming up now needs to be something I provide a report to you on, rather than trying to respond to matters that requires procedural clarity. And I'll go and do that if you give me the time.
Chair, yeah, Askisilin, with your permission, you don't need to go research and get the response in writing. It's not a difficult question. If you, VC, don't have the information at your disposal right now, you have your CFO who can gladly pull up the records right here, right now, while you move to the next question and let us know to say, okay, and answer all of these questions. There's nothing difficult at all. It does not need an academic research paper.
Yeah, I'm sure we have Director HR or something. Yeah. Who should be able to tell this is a recruitment policy we have, and it includes headhunting. This is what the process is, if it has. And if it does not, you should be able to say, no, we don't have. So that we're able to get to some of our own questions that we have around this particular program. Director?
Yes, Honourable Member, I can indicate that the university's policy does make provision for headhunting, and that's for employees. But so it would depend if Lovemore is, and if he's appointed as an employee. And what I'm hearing the Vice Chancellor indicate to you is that he's not appointed as an employee. So then the other option would be service provision. So it would have more than likely been an appointment under service provision.
Yeah, so according to what the Vice Chancellor is saying, is that he's not appointed, he's just overseeing that department. So he's not an employee, he's not in the employ of the university. So this headhunting will not have applied to him. Is that how you understand that policy, advocate?
Yes, that's how I would understand the policy if he's not an employee. So my understanding is Umgoti is a company, so it would be a legal entity, and as a result of that it would have people that form part of that legal entity and operate within it, and Mr. Khumalo is one of the members of that company, and from what I understand the Vice Chancellor is indicating he has oversight responsibility for RMS as the company. He's the representative of that company in that company. So it's not an employee relationship. It's a service provision relationship. That's what I understand.
No, you are not understanding it right. The company, Umgoti, is given the responsibility of, they're in the RMS, some responsibility. And then there was somebody who was in the position now where Khumalo is overseeing. There was a person while Umgoti existed in the system. Okay, VC, correct us.
So sorry, Chair. The procurement processes can be explained by the CFO, but the post itself we are struggling to recruit to, and that's why there's a vacuum, and that was the basis of seeking some support. So the post of the director of RMS does not currently is not currently filled.
So he's just acting there.
Nature of the contract that they have with an institution. So we've already established that this person is not an employee officially of the institution. While we're trying to crack down whether they are a company in the sole body or a representative of a division of that company, perhaps what we're supposed to ascertain is the payment of the service rendered as overseen. How does that system work?
Sure, I'll go to the CFO for me.
Thanks, Chair. They are paid as a service provider. The company, Umgoti Risk Management Services, has seconded the particular individual we're referring to and also when there is a need for other risk management services that are related to security, they provide us with the services that we require in terms of the scope of the work that they are provided. So the individual is not an employee, as you have correctly stated. They are seconded to the university by the company to support the university in terms of security enhancements and security stabilization.
So, so they were appointed to do X, and then they did an assessment and said, you need the expertise here. Or it's you guys who said we need the director level. We need somebody to run the security services for ourselves. Although you said they are seconded. That's the word you used.
We went out looking for services that include somebody to oversee risk management services and also to support and assist the university in terms of implementing security enhancements and security projects that that would ordinarily be under the purview of a director for RMS in terms of security enhancements and security stabilization of our campuses. So there is a scope of work which extends beyond just somebody to oversee RMS. The critical thing was we needed to implement security enhancements in the university. And as we did not have a substantive appointee in the area of Director for Risk Management Services, we needed to include, we included that in the scope of the work when we went out to look for a service provider. So it is not the company that defined the scope of the work, the university defined the scope of the work.
So, sorry, Honorable Msezan.
No,
Okay.
I wanted to, Chair, I wanted you to ask for me because it's not my time now. I like the deliberation. Just I'm still getting confused on my own question. So I wanted you to ask if the employees of the university report in actual fact to an external contractor. They report to him as a person overseeing, because if you're overseeing, it means that someone is reporting. So I just want to understand that, if you can ask it for me, Chair, before you get back to me.
And then just one thing, Chair, because I think the gentleman HR was assisting us in this process to say, because here we're interested in the procedure. The other nuance around it is politics, we can discuss it, but he says, look, there's a head hunting policy in the university, standing policy, but that is related to employees. Now, both the Vice Chancellor and the CFO, I think, have made it very clear to us that this particular vacancy has not been filled by someone who will be standing in as an employee. So the head hunting policy then falls aside. Now, the CFO then says to us, they are performing this function as a service provider. Now, the follow-up question then ought to be, what is the process of appointing a service provider in the University of KwaZulu-Natal? And whether or not that process was followed. Because when the CFO says we went out looking for, it may suggest that you had hunted a service provider, but I don't want to assume on behalf of the university. I think maybe the university must clarify that aspect. Number one, what is the process of appointing a service provider at the UKZN? Number two, was that process followed in appointing this particular company to perform that role? And if it was not, which statute, piece of legislation, or rule was used to deviate from the standard procedure of appointing a service provider? Thanks, Chair.
In order to appoint a service provider, our procurement policy makes provision for various procurement processes to be followed. Depending, our procurement policy also allows for a procurement deviation process. that can be followed and approved in line with the delegated financial authority limits. So the procurement policy was used in terms of the appointment of the service provider, and the aspect of the procurement policy that was used was a procurement deviation, which was then approved in line with the delegated authority. And as the Vice Chancellor did indicate earlier on, the final approval was given to the university by the EXCO of Council.
And then,
I had asked who, if the RMS officials of the institution that you insourced report to the individual as a contract.
The security managers at the different campuses do report to the individual, and the individual ultimately accounts to the registrar as the executive in charge of security.
what, the question is clear. This person who's not an employee of the university, do you have employees of the university reporting to him? That is a clear question.
Yes, the person is seconded to the university to perform a certain role, and that role includes having the direct reports of the university. So yes, the security managers at our different campuses are direct reports to the director, which is this individual, because the scope of the work that the individual has been seconded to perform for the university includes line management responsibilities.
That's
Sibonga for allowing us to help each other on this thing. Chairperson, just I beg your indulgence and patience. I need to learn two things here. So there's the first part that Ulonzi is raising. My understanding of Supply Chain 101 says if you're going to deviate from the standard procedure of procurement, there has to be an exhaustion of the standard procedure that then, which renders you unable to satisfy the goal. So you hit a wall time and time and again after having tried multiple times. And because you've exhausted the standard procedure, you then want to deviate. And in order for you to deviate, you must motivate then obviously the deviation, because principle one wouldn't have been met. So that's number one. So let's park that idea. Number two, your organogram, Vice Chancellor, says the position that is now vacant is responsible for the service you've now went to go procure. What I'm trying to understand, Chairperson, how do you move from a position that is vacant, that's supposed to be filled, and substituting it with a whole company? So the nitty-gritties of secondment, we can get there, because once we answer this, we'll get there. So that's where I'm trying to understand, because what you're suggesting in many ways is that either one, the organogram dictates that the position in itself, even if it is not vacant, it is not substantive to deliver the outcome expected as far as the scope of the work. But if it is substantive, then you can't have a service as a substitution, a company as a substitution of a one-boarding vacancy, which then must also then, now let's go back to idea number one. At what point, because you're explaining heavy CFO, you're explaining Hore, the policy allows for deviations, but you still didn't answer the question. Was there a need for a deviation in your procurement, or was everything fine? Like, explain it in terms of theory, like play open cards and make it make sense.
The procurement deviation, how the process works for procurement deviations is that a motivation is prepared. Our policy doesn't necessarily prescribe that there has to have been an exhaustion of procurement processes. There are also other situations or circumstances where the deviation is allowed to be motivated for, and then the motivation gets submitted to the relevant approval authority depending on the value for approval after they've considered the strength of the motivation. In this particular case, the motivation was approved by the Executive Management Committee and recommended to the Exco Council for approval, where it was also considered and based on the strength of the motivation approved. In terms of the scope of the work that is included in this appointment, if we had a substantive director of RMS appointed as an employee, there is still in the scope of the work other services that would require the university to get a service provider to work with the director for RMS in order to deliver the whole requirement that the university has from a security stabilization perspective and from a security enhancements perspective. So the current service provider is not only performing the tasks of one person, which would be a substantive director. If there was a substantive director, there would still be other services that we would need to go out to get a service provider for to work with the director.
And these services, who was doing them before?
They have not been done before, hence there was an urgent and a great need for the university to look into its security architecture and make sure that there are enhancements that are put in place in order to secure our campuses.
Okay, in your website, University of KwaZulu-Natal.ac.za, Acting Director Mr. Lavmo Kumalo, number +27 brackets 31260871. So on your website, this person is listed as an acting director. And you guys are saying no. Even as a PA, Miss Mimi Mazubu, I want to show you I'm in your website. So this person, you have listed him yourselves as an employee, acting director. PC and CFO. Explain it. No, explain it easily. Maybe we are slow. Yeah, maybe we are slow. But make it make sense.
Let me try. When a person is seconded into a role, they then perform the responsibilities and duties of that role. A person can be seconded from within the university, but in this particular case, the person has been seconded from external to the university. So the services that the company is providing to the university include, amongst others, seconding an individual who will oversee the risk management services department for the university, but also the company will provide other resources that will be supporting the university in terms of security enhancements and security stabilization and other related security activities. So the person, because they are seconded into the role of Director RMS, they are expected to fulfill the duties and responsibilities of that role as defined by the university's job profile. So they're not an employee, but they are an individual that is fulfilling the responsibilities of the Director RMS role as one of the items in the scope of the work that the company is providing to the university.
Okay, CFO. What do you call this? The organogram of the institution has got a position called director. It's an organogram of an institution. You try to fill it, you don't get somebody fit enough to fill this position. You then advertise services. What does your advert say?
The agreement has a defined scope of the services. I don't have it in front of me now, but I can pull it out. The concept of secondment, and maybe I can make
No,
it.
let's leave secondment.
I think it is.
No, we have not arrived there. I'm still going to arrive. I'm here. You appointing these people.
Yes.
You say what? You want them to do what?
Can you give me a minute to pull out the contract so that I can read the scope of the services
Send
from
it
the
to our
contract?
secretary.
Send it to the secretary.
Yeah.
Maybe while you're still on the podium and our progressive members, could you ask for me, Chair, if they advertised the position of Executive Director RMS, how many times did they advertise? If they ever advertised, how many candidates did they interview and satisfied themselves that there was no one suitable? And if there are records to that effect, if you could just ask that so that we can also be provided with that to find out that they actually satisfied the process. Then they created this other scope that was a necessity according to the CFO to also provide other services in stabilizing RMS. If you could just ask that question, it's still on your time and before my time.
Yeah, just research. They'll give us that information, the scope. Then additionally, how many times did you advertise? How many people applied? Was it just 2 people applying twice, 3 times, whatever? And in order for you, and then what motivated, which is what I was going to, you increasing the scope. Because your issue was direct. You don't find direct. But when you bring these people who miraculously, the previous time, were fixing accreditation, these people, you had created them to be accreditors of accommodation, but Bonagi, they're people of security. You had appointed them some few years back. They did a good job, according to the vice, an excellent job. Then you want a person. You don't get this person. You decide, no, let's get a company. But when we get a company, you increase scope with a budget that was never there. On your APP, it will not have been there. Will not have said, so security, I want to spend 30 million more, making an example, maybe an exaggeration, 30 million more. But now we want to appoint this once that budget is there. And the discomfort of members is that it's clear as day that it looks like this person of yours had a relationship with you guys. Because it looks every time, not maybe every time, but it looks like things are made easier for him to fall nicely in. First, it was accreditation. We don't know whether he had accreditation experience. Whether he did a good job or not, it's another story. That is an after effect. It's like saying you have appointed a CEO who did not meet the minimum requirement. And you don't want us to ask about that part. You want us to look at what he has done. We start here. I hope you understand the discomfort of members. Because it does not look innocent. And Chair of Council, the fact that your EXCO of Council approved this process also does not sit well because she says it went through this. It was EMC first, executive management, who approved and sent you the recommendation, and the Exco of Council agreed. Honorable Lonzi.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I think this probably will be my last bite at this because I was hoping to focus on mostly teaching and learning and other important issues, but this just caught my attention because it doesn't sound right. Maybe HR can assist us. And I think this is the fundamental problem of tender systems. I think all of us sitting in the room can agree that if the position of Vice Chancellor were to be vacant, God forbid, I'm not chasing you away, VC. If the position of Vice Chancellor were to be vacant and the university were to go on a process of finding a new Vice Chancellor, and then the Chair of Council, the CFO, and the HR come back to us and say, we've struggled to find a new Vice Chancellor. And the solution for us is that we're going to bring a company to come perform the duties of a Vice Chancellor. I think we can all agree that there's a level of absurdity that is connected to that process. So I wonder, HR, I mean, I'll come to you. I think I've heard CFO enough. There was no advert, Chair. I think that's clear. So maybe HR can help us. How does payment work? So do you pay the employee? You pay the company? What this company that is performing a duty of an employee? I mean, I think it just does not sound right. And I made an extreme example of Vice Chancellor just to drive that particular point. But it simply doesn't make sense to me. And I think to the people of South Africa that if there is a vacant position of an employee, that position can be filled by a company. It just doesn't sound right, VC and Chair and CFO. And we do hope, because we're not fighting, we do hope that when we leave here today, the university will reflect on this and hopefully correct it. But yeah, my question is to HR. Thanks, you.
HR, when you answer, CFO, you'll follow by saying, maybe how much are we paying these people, this company for this service? You can look for it.
And just to indicate to you that the information that I have received from the DED, who would be dealing precisely with operational payroll issues, is that this particular company is not paid through payroll, so it's not coming through HR. It's done through finance. So ordinarily it would be through creditors.
Okay, gentlemen, there, put your hand up.
Thank you so much. I think it's been almost 20 minutes trying to raise my hand up, and I believe you didn't see my hand. Mine, it's very simple. The processes and stuff I'm not going to dwell because I'm not part of the executive and so forth. But we have had the discussion and the responses from the executive management, and there's few of things that, of course, it's need further clarity and stuff. But looking at the matter, and the VC have said that he will need time to look into it, and going forward and backward, I don't think it will assist the city. Obviously, I will appreciate if we can make a follow-up and the VC come up with a report after investigating and so forth, because what is going to happen is that we're going to dwell and say how much is getting paid, how many hours he works, and
Yeah, you can close
it's
your
definitely
mic.
not going to assist.
You can close them. I was giving you a chance. So you want to tell us how we must run our meeting? It's not going to happen. We're asking questions here.
Not really, Chair.
No, close your mic.
No.
Close your mic.
You're asking a question, so
Close
I'm
your
trying
mic.
to respond to you.
No, close your mic.
Okay.
You're not going to tell us how to run our meeting. We're going to ask questions here that we feel are necessary to be asked. You're not going to tell us that you are going to provide answers in writing. Why are we here? We're not going to do that. We're asking questions there. Asking a simple question. How much are we paying these people? You want to send it to us in writing. It's not going to happen. Honorable Kaka. Yeah.
No, thank you, Chair. The point you're making is precisely the point I'm going to make. First of all, we have one chairperson of the session. That is yourself, Dr. Talitsi. The gentleman that just addressed us now is not chairing this meeting, and he certainly is not going to dictate to this parliament how we are going to conduct our oversight. If you're uncomfortable with the conversation we're having and you're welcome to go do that and not disrupt the work of Parliament. That is number one. Number two, even if you want to respond on behalf of the institution, you're not the vice chancellor of this institution. You're not the chairperson of council, and therefore have zero authority to jump over their heads and tell them what must happen within this meeting in their institution. We're not going to have that.
No, Chair, I had a problem as well with the conversation of saying, I see the meeting is going back and forth. The meeting is going back and forth because of the CFO and VC,
Yes.
who's not giving proper response to the meeting.
No.
So we cannot be told by this gentleman that because I see the meeting is going back and forth. It must not go back and forth if it gives proper answers, accurately, the answers that we need.
We don't mind to stay here.
No, we're not in a, no. Chair, yeah, I did indicate that we may be in your plenary, but this meeting is a meeting of Parliament that has set ways of being conducted. Has not reduced our meeting decorum to. We're not some stock fair. It's a very serious meeting. Honorable Cesar. Or no, before CFO, how much are we paying these people?
Chair, I don't keep the contracts and I don't keep the invoices. I've sent a request to the staff that are responsible for those duties to send me that information. And as soon as it comes in, I can provide it.
Okay, and the scope have you sent to our secretariat?
That's what I need to get the contract for, because it's with contracts management. So I've also requested that.
So before we leave tonight, you'll send us that scope. You'll send us how much you're paying these people. Honorable Susan?
No, thanks, Chair. I think I will exhaust my input on this matter. I think since other members still have their time, they'll still come back to this matter. I think it has opened a can of worms. I was not trying to just stick to this matter. I have a number of concerns. But if maybe the Vice Chancellor could just say again on record that in your vetting process, I think it was being vetted, Chair. I'm also told our people have interest on this matter. They're sending a lot of messages. I'm also told that VC secondment only works in a situation where you are an employee. So now a person is seconded on their own company to participate as an employee, but obviously it's not something that would understand. But I just want to get an understanding for you to say again on record that when you vetted, because our people are saying here that this person was a staff member, as the chair is saying, he was investigated for corruption, he resigned, right? Then you brought him back now as a company to render services. Now he's back again in the organigram where employees are reporting to him. I don't know much about business, but I did major in business management in my first degree under Prof. Tabu Msibi as a dean in the Jude campus at some point. You don't report to a person that hasn't employed you. But that's my general understanding of a business setup. But in the vetting process, can you just say on record again that you found nothing? This person left and clean slate, came back as a company, now is acting as an overseer, employee / service provider. Just to confirm that again on record so that we can move from this matter.
Chair, I am not personally aware of anything at all in relation to this particular gentleman before my time, and certainly he was not here when I was not the one that dismissed him. So
the records, Vice Chancellor, there's nothing on records that he was investigated.
Absolutely nothing that I have, no.
Okay, then the person that gave you the file, if you could just get the same file as well, then the person that actually compiled that vetting for you because you didn't do it yourself.
No, he's saying according to their records, they don't know they don't know if he had worked here. According to you knew he was working here?
Chair, he was working here before my time.
Yes.
So when I came here, he was not working here.
Yeah.
And I have not come across anything at all from our internal documents and from anything that we've looked at that will exclude him from being considered for the role. That was the answer is, is there any information on him? I don't have anything else, no.
And I asked if
of course,
you know if he was ever investigated.
I'll look into that. I'm personally not aware of that, no.
Maybe the HR team that was there
Can put it up.
No, maybe it's a new team because there's no way they can know. When there's absolutely no way. Yeah.
For president. Can I move from this point? I think my colleagues can still bite at it. Just one more point so that the meeting can proceed. CFO, there's projects that you mentioned here, about 5 residences that are under construction. You did not mention when it had commenced. You only estimated when it might conclude. So if you could just tell us when this construction had started. And there was something that I did not understand where the cost of a bed differs in the same capacity. There is 100 beds, but the cost of a bed is different with a difference of 89,000. And then the other one, the capacity is a bit slightly greater, but the cost per bed is that's in the presentation is a bit lower than the actual the other ones. I do not know. Maybe it's because of the location of where you are building. But if these are your residences, I would assume that the cost per bed should be the same. So I just want to understand what is happening there. And Chair, I do not even know what is happening with the time, but I think I want to pause here for now so that other members can proceed. Maybe I'll come back since we leave at 8 to deal with these other matters. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. I'm only able to immediately respond to the question of the estimated cost per bed. I'm not sure if our EDIPG would be able to deal with the issues of when the projects commence because the capital projects reside under IPG and not under finance. In terms of the estimated cost per bed, that is a function of the outcomes of the tender processes and how the pricing for each of the different tenders ended up being based on who bid for those projects, because when we go out on tender, we have gone out on tender separately for each of the construction projects, and the price that we ultimately award at would be an outcome of the tender evaluation process, where you ultimately end up with whoever the lowest bidder is on that bid. We don't always have the same bidders bidding for the same work or the same bidders qualifying for the same tenders, but the cost per bed will then be determined on the price that they had quoted and they were awarded a contract on. And because these were projects awarded to different contractors, that's why the cost per bed ends up being different. However, it's looked at, so each tender process would have been evaluated, or the bidders would have been evaluated based on the requirements of the tender. And then at stage 3, which is where we evaluate price and triple BE, we would ordinarily award to the lowest priced bidder. Another contributor to the differentials in the prices is timing. In terms of when the tenders are concluded. There was a time when construction costs in the market were seen to be increasing quite significantly, which was just after the COVID period. So also depending on the time when the bids are submitted and what's happening in the construction market at that stage, you do sometimes get significant differentials in prices, but we will then look at whether the prices we have received in a bid, when we compare to all the prices received, seem reasonable. And we also compare it to our own quantity surveyors estimates that we do beforehand when the plans for their construction projects are finalized and approved.
Yeah, Chair, because what the CFO is saying, it's just, to me, it's just, I don't know, it's bizarre. Because in another instance, you have more number of beds, but the costing is way lower. So I would assume that the price range in terms of your people that are bidding should at least complement each other in terms of what you want, in terms of your scope, not what the bidders say. So I'm a bit confused, but I would just want to packet it that maybe I'll come back if there's another opportunity later to deal with other matters.
No, that's, I'm going to give you. VC, help me. Who's the RMS manager at Howard College? RMS, head of RMS at Howard College.
Chair, I cannot tell you that from the top of my head.
Who should advocate? Is that you telling me? Who's telling me?
Sorry, sir.
Sorry?
Registrar, I wouldn't, but the registrar will be able to tell you.
Yes, the register.
Name of, thank you, the name of the RMS campus manager at Howard College, or no, Westville. Howard. I think it's Richard Nkosi.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which company does he come from? Where was he working?
Oh, that I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Okay,
I'm
how
sorry.
was he appointed?
I'm also not involved
Who must tell
necessarily in
us?
those processes.
Who must tell us?
I think that would be the HR person responsible for the recruitment
Advocate.
in RMS.
Okay.
No, not necessarily the HR people that are here today. We have consultants who deal with the processes.
Okay. I'm asking you because the same person used to work for this same company, Ongut. And I can tell you now, I know there was no advert. Go get me that advert of this. So when we ask you this question and say to you, Vice Chancellor, this thing is not right, right? It's just that maybe because of time, we'll just ask you 20 questions instead of 200. But we do have 200. Backed with evidence. So when we tell you this Ungoti thing has got its own things and they don't look good. I did say for corporate governance, from a corporate governance point of view, it does not look good. Tomorrow, you'll appoint a table colleague here as an RMS campus manager of Edgewood, who comes from same Ongot. No. It's a sieve. You see, from where we're looking, you must convince us, honestly, that all of these things are a, I don't know, luck or something, God, some intervention. But it looks like a coordinated arrangement. Kur Ungoti, it's like the Guptas. Kur capture. It's capture. And it does not look good. Vice Chancellor and Chair, does not look good. Probably before we leave here, or might even write to you other people. They go and explain how this person was hired and the references. You must just look at the references. HR, you just look at your system. Here's a CV of this person who was on the references. Experience was 4 years. Where? Ungot. Honorable Khacha.
Thank you, Chairperson. Quickly, the seconded Director of Risk Management, Ugai Nandata Kumar.
Yes, he must be outside.
He must be outside.
Yes.
Can somebody grab him, please? And then while we wait for him, I just want to make a remark, Chairperson. I make these observations sometimes in passing and they sound like a joke sometimes. But you know, when we started this meeting and the CFO started presenting, I whispered to Ntate Ngubane and I'm like, this is weird. I doubt if the Vice Chancellor of this institution is the real Vice Chancellor of this institution. And I'm going to park it there, just as a remark. Let's start here, Vice Chancellor, since this is your institution. According to your organogram, the vacant position that you either advertised or are still advertising or whatever it is you're doing with it, who does that person report to? Do they report to your DVC operations? Who does that person report to?
The Director of RMS, Honourable Member, historically has resided within the office of the Registrar.
Okay, thank you. Registrar. So the Director of RMS reports to you. So the process of filling the vacancy, you've said, has to do with consultants. So you are not involved in the process. You've just said now to one of the questions that were asked. The consultants that form part of the process. Can you quickly, please, in just 2 minutes, explain how that process works?
Honourable Member, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking about the Director of RMS, the appointment of the Director of RMS. Sorry, I'm asking a question because I'm not understanding quite what you're asking.
I mean, I don't know which other English to speak. Yes, ma'am, that's it.
So the Director of RMS in the organogram does report to the Registrar. At the moment, we have a secondment in that position who reports to me.
I'm going to pause you, ma'am. My question is very, very simple. I asked your VC, as per the organogram, if that figure existed, who would they report to? They would report to you. So now we know that that figure is not there. But if they report to you, you would know the process of filling that person's vacancy that reports to you. So explain that process. How does that process work?
So if we're looking for a Director of RMS, there would be a request for services to HR, which would include a draft advert, and it would include a proposed panel in keeping with our regulations. And then there would be a determination of who's chairing it, and the panel is put up in a certain format. So that would proceed, and as Registrar, I'd be assisted by an HR consultant in terms of that process.
As far as this vacancy is concerned, did you follow that process?
We don't currently have a Director of RMS.
I'm very aware. That's why we're having this conversation, yes. Registrar.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you followed the process of wanting to fill that.
Yes.
So that's all I'm asking. You did it. Okay.
Yes.
HR, did you receive the request from the Registrar's office to follow the process that she just explained now?
Honourable Member, you're asking me a question I can't answer. I was not in HR at the time, but I can find out whether those documents exist. So
when did you assume your position?
I started in 2023, October.
Oh, thank you. When did this vacancy occur? Let's first start there.
Honourable Member, I also can't quite remember the dates because we had a previous, and I do think that there was some confusion. We had a previous Director of RMS who left pending disciplinary charges, not a previous, another person. And
thank you for that extra information. But are you able to estimate when the vacancy occurred?
It would have been in about 2021, 2022.
Okay.
So at that point, there was an advert put out. We had applications. They were considered, so the process was followed.
And then what happened?
And at that point, I do believe that I think we went out a second time and again found nobody suitable for the position. And then we proceeded in this way that we've discussed earlier. So there were definitely processes in terms of calling for adverts, considering them, etc.
Okay. Umdloti, CFO, when were they given the baton of the responsibility? The company, since when have you been working with them? Please switch on your mic.
2023.
Okay, this is just before you HR. So 2021, we have a vacancy. You advertise, number one, you hold interviews. Nobody is good enough. You advertise again. You hold a second batch of interviews. Nobody is good enough. 2023, before this HR comes, we then decide to not fill that vacancy because still nobody is not good enough. We then decide, okay, the next brilliant idea is we get a company in the meantime, and then we go through what everybody explained. Mem Timuye, for how long have you been chair of council? Please switch on your mic.
2 years.
In 2 years, so since 2023. It is 2025.
Yeah, October 2023.
So were you here when that happened or did you come afterwards?
This falls below the delegation of the chair of council, and so it's an operational matter.
I know that.
If they tell me the date, I started in October 2023.
I know that. So I'm a former SRC president who served in council and ESCO, so I'm fully much aware what falls within your scope. I'm just asking for interest because where I'm going with this is I'm trying to link the role of oversight of council on the executive's work. So you arrived and the thing arrived when you arrived, the arrival of the other matter happened at the same time. Is that what you're saying?
No, I started in my term started on the 1st of October 2025.
Yes. Okay. So,
and I'm not aware of it to deal with this aspect.
Okay, that's fine. VC, do you want to interject?
Yeah, I wanted to stop you.
Again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this chair, but the more we speak about it, the more there are some questions. So this post was advertised twice, according to the registrar. And on both times, the registrar is saying the university never found anyone suitable. And then they went to appoint a company. The company brings this gentleman. So I assume this gentleman is suitable, according to your registrar. Now, you've got a headhunting policy at the university. Or rather, I wonder why this gentleman will never apply it in the 2 phases. Because clearly it's suitable if he's occupying the position right now. Because UKZN went all over South Africa and not a single South African, out of all the unemployed graduates, the professors, the academics, all of them, they couldn't find a single South African who could be a director of RMS. So much that they had to take out a tender and bring in a company. What does the company do? It finds a suitable candidate. And now we've got an acting director of RMS. Registrar, I don't know if you have any comments about that.
I just want to correct one point that was made. I never said that we interviewed. We called for applications, and in the shortlisting process, there was no one found suitable. Yes, so there was a review process of the applications. So I never said that there were interviews. Thank you. If I can just correct that. Thank you.
Yeah, but you have not commented that out of all of these people in the whole of South Africa, with SAPS having people with serious experiences, none of them applied. And then within a short space of time, this company, it means this company tomorrow you are going to appoint it to do recruitment for you, because clearly it's strong. Quick, it has found somebody. So any comment on that?
There were special skills being looked for. I think there was comment from the CFO earlier in terms of additional responsibilities in the scope of work, needing somebody specific or a company or a person specific who could do that. So, so yes, so at the time, those who applied were found not suitable to proceed with. Thank you.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. So we're not getting love more. Because at least you would ask him, why did you not apply? Yeah, Barry is not here. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. He does not report to you, this.
Yes, Mr. Kamala reports to me.
Can you not call him?
I can certainly.
Please come, because he must tell us why did you not apply. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Registrar, but please call him. That's very important. I'll come back after the call. Vice Chancellor, am I correct to say you've been Vice Chancellor since 2019?
That is correct.
Okay. What is the motivation that was provided by the registry's team and finance for the deviation for procurement?
Honourable Member of Parliament, the exact proposal is not in front of me, but perhaps I can answer the imperatives of the university at the time. We were on the back of this particular process in terms of preceding it. The university was in a state of some significant disarray. We had buildings being burned in 2020. And it transpired that the then director was instrumental in aspects of that. So we had to move to get him through a process. He then resigned. We were dealing simultaneously with a porous campus where most of the staff...
I'm going to interject respectfully, Vice Chancellor. That has already been ventilated. You've explained, you really genuinely, things were so bad that you were desperate for a replacement. That's fine. My question is very simple. Do you have a recollection of what you, the operations teams, and your executive considered as reasons for this route that is, I hope, unprecedented and not a duplication of something else you've done in this institution?
Honourable Member, I'm not sure that I get a distinction being sought, because the distinction is about context. The submission would have had a context, which is what I was trying to explain. But the context itself is material, because the desire to go and deviate must be motivated by empirical needs of the institution. At that time, we had significant challenges. And we needed leadership that wasn't just going to come in and sit in terms of the skill sets of the director, but also to train. And it's in that context that we formulated the proposal. I don't have the proposal in front of me, but you did ask me what was the essence of the proposal, and I was trying to give you a context to that. Chair.
Honorable Sanga.
Sorry, Honorable Khakao. Just straightforward on this very question. The chair of council said that it's outside of the purview of council, this matter. But the CFO said that the proposal was approved by EXCO. So if you could just understand that, unless there's a university EXCO, then there's EMC. Just to get clarity so that I don't confuse the two.
Okay. The deviation would have come to EXCO, and then it would have come on the recommendation of EMC. That is what we would have seen. The appointment of the individual is outside the mandate of EXCO.
The chair can actually answer on the recommendation because you are aware of it. So because that's where Honorable Khao is at the moment, about the motivation of the deviation.
Pardon?
Because ESCO approved it.
I did not say we actually approved that. I said then, okay.
CFO said it was approved.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. the approval for the deviation would have come to EXCO of Council on the recommendation of EMC. And as EXCO, based on the strength of the explanations that we give it, would have either approved it or not approved it. But at this point in time, I don't remember this thing, and I cannot answer. If I have to give you an answer, it means then that I have to ask for the information and look into that and be able to provide the answer.
Okay, Chair. The Secretary of Council is the register. So you can ask the register to send you those minutes and you'll read them before Nolukakao finishes questions in the next 12 minutes. I'm going to get positive. You would give us a response. This thing, Chair of Council, it's extremely important. Like I said, it's a corporate governance. You guys in Council did not see anything wrong with this thing. Even in retrospect. And that's why I want to give you an opportunity to go through. You probably, the minutes will remind you who said what. I don't know how they capture minutes, but it's extremely important because we, not so long ago, met one university that changed their statute. And when we asked them, they accepted. They said, you know what? In retrospect, we realize that this may be problematic moving forward. And I thought that was leadership. They've looked at what they could have done. At the time, it looked right. It happens. But in retrospect, after some time, you then realize, oh, no, man, this that we have created here can open an institution for abuse if somebody decides to do it. And as an institution, there's nothing that we can do because it would have been put, it has a statute, as a police or whatever the case may be. So in retrospect, that's what we are trying to get to. Or sometimes we take decisions that we believe are correct at that time, and later on we then realized, or no, a problem. And this is the point we're trying to drive home with you guys here. Or and I think it was Honorable Kaka who said, when you go home, you didn't reflect and say, no, let's fix. Because like I said, ours is to try and working with you guys to get things right. And not necessarily to catch you guys out. I must repeat that point. Because we want a system that works, a knowledge production, a factory of brilliant minds that must come from these institutions to go and solve South Africa's problems. But not how we're going. Register, you have feedback quickly on, did you get our guy?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kamalo is not on campus at the moment, so he's not available. He's left campus already.
Yeah, we can't go. Oh, he stays in Richards Bay. Stays far.
He lives in Maritzburg, yes.
Yeah, the problem is he was here the whole day. When we need him, he's not here. Okay.
Registrar, after you had exhausted, after you've hit the wall the 2 times that you tried to fill the vacancy, please don't forget to switch on your mic. Who conceived the idea of the deviation?
That was a collective EMC decision related to the situation at the time.
I can agree, but in a meeting, somebody starts at A and then together we get to Z. So who conceived it?
Again, I find myself sort of having to think back to sort of particular meetings and things, but a submission would have come to EMC. probably at the time between me and with the assistance of the Vice Chancellor would have gone to EMC, and then a recommendation would have gone to the EXCO of Council.
So in order for that deviation to exist, you, together with who?
The Vice
The
Chancellor.
Vice Chancellor would have to go submit to say, this is what we think we should do because we've hit a wall, because these are desperate times. We think, let us do this. Am I capturing you correctly?
So there was a motivation written, yes.
Okay,
And a
Vice
deviation.
Chancellor, the registrar can't recollect between the two of you who came up with the inception. Who was the first to conceive this baby? Do you have an idea?
No, but I'm realizing that we'll need to go and have a look at it, because clearly it's a matter that has become very pressing, for which we are not currently in possession of the entire process that was followed. But if we're given time, I will make sure that happens, and we'll furnish you with that.
I have an idea, Chairperson. I don't think the registrar and the Vice Chancellor together decided to have one day of a meeting and decided, so I don't think the registrar went to the VC and said, hey, I think I have a problem. What do you think I should do? It's like, I don't know. What do you think we should do? And then amongst themselves, they're like, let's do this. I think there was a boerdedom kind of meeting, the Afrikaans boerdedom of apartheid style, where there's like a unit that's somewhere that is the real center of power of any institution. They go decide to say, okay, this is what we want to do, and then afterwards they have a sponsor of the idea, which would either be the registrar or the VC, and then they go to the same official space of the boerdedom being the EMS, and then they deliver the idea, and then by then it's all system goes. So I'm going to park it here for now. Now let's move here. The registrar. No, I'm gonna leave you for now. We're not gonna get anywhere. I hope for another conversation on this matter. Let's have this conversation. SRC Vice Chancellor. No, CFO. Your debt that is owed to you from fees unpaid by students, how much of it is owed by NSFAS? Is the SRC president's statistics, are they correct? Because he said 800 million.
Yes, it's approximately 800 million, which comprises the unfinalized closeout from 2017 up to the prior academic year.
How much of it have you received so far? Was it still 800?
No, we still are in the process of finalizing the closeout with NSFAS.
Yeah.
And once that is finalized, then there will only then be a way forward in terms of what happens with the repayment.
Okay.
So we've been for a number of years now doing reconciliations, and I think at the end of November we're having what hopefully would be a final meeting to finalize all the closeout processes and to sign a agreement in terms of what is owed. But I do not know what will happen with regard to the payments.
That's okay. SRC President, as part of the list that Honorable Msezana requested about student accommodation, please can you also give us the stats of landlords that have claimed that they have not been paid by NSFAS and have as a result chucked students out or are threatening to leave students out of homes. That way in the next opportunity we're able to online discuss this conversation. The second thing I want to have an understanding of, Registrar, since the company reports to you, Chair, I first need to Msezana. So I'm struggling here, to be honest. Nothing, before I can get to the next question, I need to vent just for 1 minute. Nothing discourages myself and people who genuinely care about this country like this, what's happening here now. where in all honesty, we could be having a progressive conversation about how to fix what's wrong and to build on what we're already doing right. But instead of that, we are having a mafia hide and seek that is absolutely not assisting anybody other than the people who are beneficiaries of the mafia. And those people are not the students who are your number one stakeholders here in this institution. I'm even annoyed that because of the first chat that we had, I have absolutely no faith that we can have an honest conversation about the state of student accommodation, not only on campus, but off campus. So off campus, we can have a chat with NSFAS about, but here on campus, you have, not only do you have buildings that are abandoned, you have students that are currently occupying residence. We went there to the O Block residence where students are showering in showers that have ceilings falling into them. You walk into the rooms that kids sleep in. They're in first year, and since February, since they arrived here, the curtain rail has never been fixed. I assume, well, I can assume for myself that if there is a curtain rail that is not working in my house, I'm not comfortable sleeping in a house. Simple. And I assume, as Mosadi Luena, that's something you would take pride on, to say, but you, something as simple as and then you have students who come here, some leaving homes that are decent, to come here. The showers are revamped, by the way. You can see they look good, they're renovated. But they're renovated and they look good, but the ceilings are still falling in. I don't understand how that works. For me, the reason why I'm upset about this is because it's not even just a case of maintenance and you not knowing how to maintain things, because the fact that you have the showers that we saw says you know what maintenance is. To me, what it indicates is a lack of integrity when loans. And I always say, a conversation about integrity is simply a conversation about common decency. Before you can have integrity, you must have common decency, and you must look at another person beyond yourself as a human being worthy of respect, consideration, and care. And what upsets me even more is the fact that Vice Chancellor, majority of the people who are responsible for taking care of this institution are parents. I am almost sure you would never be happy to have children who share your DNA subjected to the conditions that students here under your watch are subjected to. So I can't even begin to ask the CFO about how much money she has available for the ex-employees / umdloti for maintaining the ungoti for maintaining residences, because at the very, this is the person we wanted. We worked so hard to get them here that we even had to deviate from organograms of the institution. At the very core of what we're facing here are people who have forgotten about what education in post-apartheid South Africa means for Black people. Because that's the majority of the people that you serve here. That a democratic dispensation, chairperson, is supposed to be an opportunity for us to catch up. And when we're given an opportunity to do right, we're giving our former oppressors an opportunity to look at us and laugh and say, look at these idiots, this is why we never wanted to give them power, because we knew they can't do fuck all. That for me is very upsetting, chairperson. And so, even though there are like a whole lot of questions that I could ask, I'm convinced that it means nothing, because the leadership that we are exposed to is not concerned about that, because that's not why they come to work. And at the end of the day, we could throw our toys out of our courts, and fight management. But management is happy to do this because the Department of Higher Education that is responsible for holding them accountable, they too are lazy in doing their jobs.
Yeah, maybe before you, Chair, because you see, my concern is you came back too fast before I took the machine to Chair. But maybe I might just want to reiterate, before you take over again. Maybe I must just reiterate the latter that Honorable Khakhao has said, that it was not really intended that we would really be stuck in this topic as if that's why we are here, because it would appear as if we came here for this matter. It's matters that are being sent by our constituencies to us to interrogate as means of oversight. But we do have a number of issues that would have raised, in fact, a number of even compliments that we would have expressed, but we haven't gotten the opportunity as a result of this back and forth, which is not something that we take pride or joy of. But you can take over your chair again now that you are back.
No, thanks. Chair of Council, I hope you've heard with the spirit that the message is being delivered. I mean, Labour made a point that this new structure, what do you call it, the theme of what do you call it?
Project renewal?
Sorry?
Project renewal.
Project renewal. Labour says they are not against it. It's a good first step. They want to work with you on it. But they are raising concern. They are saying senior managers, it's too congested up there. And the structure looks thinner going down. Whereas it's supposed to be a pyramid line, stronger on the base, and then it gets, sharper as it goes up. So yours, it's different. You see, they are, even how they were presenting, they're giving you, they're not showing you resistance, but they're saying we could improve here. So when you have Labour that speaks like that, you take advantage. Because the next thing, they will be closing the gates. They're not doing that. They're saying, no, let's talk. You do have some forums where you talk to them, which I think, if I heard correctly, they're saying doesn't take decisions, but recommends to either EMC that takes decisions. I think it was Labour again that says, we can't comment on something here. We're told it must go to council and be approved at council. After it has been approved at council, it only comes back to us at that time. It might be, too late. Oh, I thought the gentleman is Date Kuma. I thought he came back. So take work with them. You see, it becomes easier, VC, to work with the workforce that that behaves this way. Take them into confidence, build relationships, let them be strong, because at least they are showing signs of wanting. I mean, it's their bread and butter. They have to be concerned if certain things go left or go south. So they raising issues correctly and say, look, like any other sector, the relationship between management and Labour will have contradictions. It's the nature of it. We understand that part, but we believe on this one. We're not raising it on the basis that we are Labour and there's management. We believe there's substance in what we are raising. You guys, I think you can take a lot from that and listen to them and say, let's sit down. What do you think here? Okay, can we fix X, Y, and Z? I believe that it will assist yourselves, Chair. If you want to comment, I was just adding on what Honorable Khacha was saying.
Chair, I appreciate the discussions that we've had, and it's something that we'll take back to council and also to the other committees of council for us to reflect. And I actually appreciate the fact that we've had this discussion, and then it will help us grow. I think it's only with insight and it's only with acceptance of constructive criticism that one has to grow. Thanks.
No, we've not had a discussion. We are having a discussion. We're far from being over. We've only covered 2% of what we brought. We're only at 2%. So Honorable Lonzi is going to bring 3%.
No, thank you, Chair. On a lighter note, VC, the word renewal was abused a lot by some organization that I know. And it seems like the more they say renewal, the more they achieve the opposite. So I don't know if we can get some linguistic specialist at UKZN to come up with a different synonym to renewal, because renewal invites many problems. But that's just.
I think the judge in East London must sentence people first.
No, that was just to deal with the tensions in the House, VC. Just 5 minutes on this previous discussion, then I'd like to move on to other issues. I just wonder how many other vacancies at a managerial level, CFO, would have been appointed through a similar route that we've discussed with Ongoti and secondment, or is this the only gentleman that is affected by this?
To be honest, I would not be aware, because each division would deal with its human capacity requirements, either through permanent appointments or fixed-term contract appointments or service provider appointments. But I don't know whether there are other.
No, that's fine. I think we'll just write, and then you can share that with us. But would you agree with me, CFO, if it were to come up that this is the practice across the board, then that would raise some eyebrows in as far as the relationship that the university has with this particular company called Ongoti. If it were to come up when you respond to us, when you go and do your homework, that actually we've got multiple other vacancies which were supposed to be filled substantively by individuals, but are being filled through this middleman company that seconds people to fill those vacancies. Or you wouldn't find any problem with that practice?
I would have to say it would also depend on what the rationale and the reasoning is, but it would be something that would need to be looked at closely for an assessment to be made as to what is going on, and then to be rectified accordingly in terms of making appointments into approved positions.
But as a matter of principle, we all agree that it would be in the best interest of the university to just fill the vacancy substantively with the person with the necessary qualities and skills. If indeed this gentleman, Mr. Kumalo, has got these qualities, would it not be in the best interest of the university to then, okay, let's bring him in, then he seems to be the best in South Africa, at least as far as you guys are concerned, and appoint him substantively, as opposed to us appointing a company and going on a long process and fees and hidden costs that we don't know about?
I would agree that where the university finds suitably qualified individuals for vacant positions, we should appoint into them. But I think the big consideration is whether they are suitably qualified. And in some instances, it does take time to find individuals that are suitably qualified for those appointments. But yes, it would be.
All right. No, thanks for that. CFO, this is on a separate matter. I know we will discuss it shortly. How much is your student debt currently sitting at as a university?
2.3 billion as at the last audited set of numbers. So that's at the end of 2024.
And then is there a practice at UKZN that if a student owes the university money, you withhold their degree or their certificate?
If a student owes money, yes, they do not get their degree certificate. They get furnished with a letter of completion and also an academic
record.
An academic record.
If the employer writes to the university?
No, the academic record gets given to them on completion without the employer writing to them.
How many students has UKZN withheld certificates of?
Can I ask the registrar to check in terms of the last response we had provided to Parliament on that aspect, because I think we had received that question earlier on in the year.
Yeah, if you have it. If you don't, you can send it to me. I'm not picky.
I'll send it, yes, and just to confirm that number changes because we have students who then are issued with their certificates and a new graduation, so it's not a static number at any point. Thank you.
So some employers, CFO, and I'm just putting this to you because you deal with money, but it's also something for the executive management to consider. Some employers are not satisfied with just receiving the transcripts and the letter of completion. In fact, they want the degree and they want the certificate. It even becomes worse when you consider online applications because they get immediately kicked out of the application process if they are unable to immediately provide a degree or certificate. There's no time. I mean, you can imagine with the number of unemployment in South Africa, there's no time for people to persuade employers that, no, look, there's an arrangement that I have with my university. And with that in mind, what do you think it serves the university, or do you think it even serves the developmental agenda of our country to say, these young people are already unemployed? And let's assume that some of them genuinely want to pay back this money. How do we expect these young people to pay back this money if we are withholding the very tool, if we are withholding the very key that they must use to go and unlock employment opportunities? I'm just interested. I know it's a policy discussion. It's not a, maybe I'll ask you, VC, so I don't give the CFO too much trouble. It's a sector broad discussion to say that this practice of saying, yeah, you can't pay this money, you can't be employed, but we're going to trap you further by saying we're withholding the degree and your certificate. I wonder, VC, if you've got some very short reflection on that.
Honourable member, I think you raised an important point, and I think it is a matter that objectively no one can disagree with you on. The mechanisms to do so currently we don't have. It has implications around the notion that there isn't a statutory sort of route for free education, and this will allow that. So there's a hurdle that we can't unilaterally transgress as an institution.
And then to you again, CFO, of the money that the students owe you, and this is a debate I had with the CFO of Nelson Mandela University as well, how many of that money would you have classified as bad debt in your books of the 2.3 billion?
I'm just going to our annual report to confirm.
The travel safe, Deputy Chair. I'm saying travel safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, we would have wanted you to answer one question, but it's okay.
At the end of 2024, our loss allowance on student fees receivable was 2 billion.
So this is not a UKZN specific point. I mean, I never did accounting, but with the very pedestrian accounting knowledge I have, if we've already classified this as bad debt, I want to assume that that's almost a recognition and acceptance from a financial point of view from yourself and the university that the chances of these people paying back this money are very minimal.
It's an accounting requirement that we have to comply with in terms of preparation of financial statements. From our operational perspective, instead of student debt recovery, we still are putting in the effort to recovering that debt, and we are seeing that debt being recovered where there's concerted effort to actually pursue the debt. But the loss allowance is a requirement that we have to comply with in terms of the international financial reporting standards, and therefore we do an accounting entry for that aspect, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we are not pursuing the debt to recover it.
I accept that, and the reason I asked this, again, I had this debating with another CFO. If you've classified someone's debt under bad debt, and then you've been chasing this person for more than 10 years or 5 years or 15 years, and you're withholding the certificate or withholding the degree, you've battled to receive this, to recover this money from them, and you've also classified them as bad debt. What does the university lose? Maybe we'll come back to you again, VC, in a policy discussion. What do universities lose to say that we've been chasing this person for about 10 years or 15 years now? We've classified the debt as bad debt. Chances are they are sitting at home in Umlazi, somewhere they are unemployed because they were withholding their degrees and certificates. What do we lose by just giving these people their degrees and their certificates?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'll have to go back to my previous response. I think I do entirely accept the argument that the Honourable Member makes. I wish there was a provision for us to do that. I think there's a leap between the accounting requirement and the fiduciary requirement of the institution. We're obligated to do certain things in a certain way. In that sense, we will need to get a legislative framework to allow us to deviate from that. Otherwise, we'll face other consequences.
No, thanks, Chair. No, we are working on that framework, VC, through our private members' bill on the student debt relief bill. But it's always interesting to have these discussions with vice chancellors and CFOs and institutions of higher learning. My second question, which will probably be my last, I mean, the Operation Clever and the many other allegations which would have come out in the past, even long before you came in as a vice chancellor, about this recurring issue that places either in the faculty or health sciences faculties, there's discrimination against admissions, places are being sold, there's corruption between the managers and some of these parents and all of that. I wonder how far has the university come to try and curb that particular problem, especially considering, I mean, I'm sure UKZN is amongst the universities that receive a lot of applications from F10s. And then if there's a stigma, if there's this general suspicion from the public that if you want to enter medical school at UKZN, you have to have money, you have to bribe, you have to persuade someone. So I wonder what are the steps that the university has taken, not only internally, but steps that the public also sees you to be taking. I mean, I'm sure you know of the old saying that justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. So just on that point, we see.
Honourable Member, I think the university takes a zero tolerance to any interference in the normal procedural matters that adversely affects the integrity of the student progression process or indeed the institution itself. We have, as part of our broader restructuring, also identified gaps that relates to the manual processes within the institution, where there's manual interventions in terms of individual processing things. That's where there's likely to be greater risk. We're moving very quickly to operationalize all of that and put it onto an ERP system, which will have a better tracking system. Our current ERP hasn't been changed for nearly 25 years. It's a bit archaic. And as I speak to you now, Council has mandated management to go and seek a strategy for that. And we're in the process of developing a tender process for that.
No, thanks, Vice Chancellor. The other question is that, I may just be seeing it, but the numbers may tell a different story. But I wonder how much the university spends on security and private security on campus. Because I've interacted with almost all the universities and the TVET colleges, and I must say UKZN is amongst the most militarized, for lack of a better word, campuses across South Africa. Even on issues I think may not necessarily need that level of aggression. Yes, if there is an emergency, there's unrest and what, we understand those emergency services. But I think at UKZN, you every second or third person that you meet is a person in uniform. And you don't want to create that environment in an institution of higher learning. You would know the history of demilitarization of campuses, the global struggles against demilitarization. It's at the center of the argument of academic freedom, really, to say that you don't want to militarize and bring about some dictatorship in a campus so that young people are unable to express themselves, because there's this constant fear that every time I turn around the corner, there's a guard. Every time I turn around the corner, there's a guard. So, I'm sure you've got a justification. I'm just interested in if that is something that you are thinking about as the university, but also, CFO, if you have the number, if you don't, you can write to us. I'd also be interested in how much UKZN spends on security.
Thank you very much indeed. Honourable Member, I think the figures will have to be sent to you. I haven't got it at my fingertip here. But the notion of militarization and your characterization of it is precisely what we're trying very hard to achieve. We as an institution don't have to look very far to see an environment where UKZN was constantly in the news for all the wrong reasons. There has been interventions put in place in the short term, and we also remain very much one of the few regional universities with no armed guards at all, which means that the exposure of the security system, the security team, needs to be doubling up. But we're working towards a campus where, as you can see, management, organized labor, the students are working in the best interests of actually advancing security and safety around our environment. Hopefully we'll get there, and when we do, I think we'll then take appropriate measures. Currently, within the risk we face, it will be irresponsible for us to do anything different.
No, thanks, VC. I don't know if the person in charge of residencies or who that is here or who that will fall under. I did hear when we were speaking outside that there was a residence that didn't have an occupational certificate, and then students were moved, which is good. So I wonder are there any other residences at UKZN that don't have occupational certificates where students are currently residing in them?
If I may answer that, not to the best of our knowledge. We have moved very quickly to ensure that that never happens again. Okay. No, thanks, VC. I think I'll stop there, VC. Thank you, Chair of Council, CFO, Registrar, HR, and the rest. I don't want you to perceive, some of these sessions do tend to lean towards hostility because of the nature of the issues that we're dealing with. But I want the university to see it in a much more positive light, in saying that here are people who are genuinely interested in seeing development and transformation in our higher education sector, and how do we then come together and close where there are gaps, and if there are points of reflection
It's not weakness for a leader to come and say, I made a mistake, therefore I'm going to correct it. In fact, in my view, that's the highest form of courage. It doesn't make you a weak leader, doesn't make you, we fought very hard with a leader that refused to admit that they made a mistake in a particular process. Even where they themselves actually, withdrew the process. And we made the same point to them to say it's not weakness. If anything, it's a sign of strength, it's courage. So we want our institutions, we want UKZN to develop that particular culture as well. Where there are mistakes, we must come in, we must accept, and we must self-correct. And I want to strongly persuade you, VC and Chair, to really look into this Ongoti matter. It was not on my notes. I just picked it up as Honorable Msezane was raising the issues. And already at face value, without me digging further, I can already see that there are big problems related to that process. So I think we still have an opportunity, not all is lost, to fix where fixing needs. Let's get substantive employees to fill in substantive roles. And there's no need to tender them. Let's build institutional capacity and not celebrate that we can outsource a responsibility to a private firm when we can actually build UKZN capacity. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you. There was a question you asked on the secondment, or you were, I can't remember whether you're asking about the company issue or the secondment. The secondment question, if you did not ask, VC, is that on the secondment issue, are there any maybe senior people who have been appointed on secondment? Maybe not necessarily companies replacing individuals. On secondment, are the senior people, senior executives who have been appointed using this policy?
Chair, there will always be a secondment internally as people leave and the process of refilling the post drags on. We can't leave executive positions unfilled. So a proposal will be made to the Senior Appointment Committee on the merits of that particular instance to get an internal secondee to the position, yes.
So this secondment is confirmed or done through this committee you're talking about?
It is done through internal call for expressions of interest of suitably qualified individuals. That will be done, and the panel will be established to then arrive at that. But before we get to that process, a permission will be sought from the Senior Appointment Committee first. They would have had to interrogate management on the processes followed, but management priorities will have to be fulfilled in the meantime. So it's not in place of recruitment, it's an operational necessity.
The Senior Appointment Committee, so it's Senior Appointment Committee?
That's right.
Who sits there?
It's chaired by the Deputy Chair of Council. And the memberships will be council members, organized labor, student leadership, IF, and management.
Okay, so it's a variety of people. So the deputy chair left before would have asked the head this question, but we'll find. Honorable Nguban?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I think VC or CFO, this restructuring, have we ascertained how will it impact the culture of learning and teaching? And what measures have we put in place to make sure that it becomes seamlessly and it doesn't negatively impact on the main outcome of the university, which is the teaching and learning, as well as the impact on students and the ballooning of budgets of funds of creating these new entities? Do you have a budget for this restructuring that you guys are busy with?
If I may, Chair, the restructuring is under the overall purview of Council, and it's an outcome of a 2.5 year structural review done internally by our own academic and administrative staff, reviewing every procedural and every space in the institution with the intent to come up with recommendations on how to strengthen it. So far, the process has not had a material impact at all on the teaching and learning. In fact, it's improved it. And I think the presentation, particularly on student progression and all the interventions being put in that you heard earlier, arose from that process. And we're not doing it as an event that takes place, but gradually phasing it in over a period of years.
Okay, so it hasn't had negative impact, as you said. You guys are measuring as you go through it. It's at what percentage of completion from now on?
We have completed about 60% of it. We're now in implementation phase, which will be over the next 18 months.
So there's still 40% of it that needs to be completed. Do we have a budget for the whole restructuring? How much, what is being put into?
We're using academic time. So overtime of staff and both academic and administrative to run this project. So far, we have not brought in external stakeholders to do that at all.
So the new entities being created won't incur extra costs?
No, it should not. In fact, it should save us money in the long term.
Okay, all right. The next question, I saw the percentage, the output ratio of the success rate. Can we get that be broken into gender, race, as well as local versus international students, so that we can see that what really compose that success rate of the university as an overall? If we can get that structured according to gender, race, international versus local student as a holistic output, we'll appreciate it. And then we look at this 16%, because if it's 84% success rate, there's a 16% failure rate. And we want to see as well this failure rate of 16%, what is it composed of, and then it as well structured according to the in a comparison with the success rate. If we can get that report so that we know that who does it impact, the success rate as well as the failure rate.
Honourable to you, Chair, Honourable Member, that I think that's a very important set of data sets. We have it and we'll provide it to you.
All right. And my next question, the contentious question, VC, there is an assertion that there is a flushing out of executive staff, especially the local staff. How many DVCs and deans do you have which are of South African origin and structurally of foreign origin as well? How many do you have? As well as in the council, Memtimun, in your council, how many foreign nationals and local council members as well? Both questions apply to you, Chair and Vice Chair.
If I may go first, Honourable Member. In the executive, all the executive members are South African, with the exception of myself. There is no dean appointed who is not South African, but we have inherited deans who are of different nationality, I imagine, who've been renationalized in South Africa. I'm not familiar with the process on that, but we do have at least one dean in AES who is not South African by birth, but he was dean previously.
All the DVCs and deans, including...
That is correct. All the DVCs are South African.
Can receive that report as well, that reflects, especially at the highest level, all over, not just all over structurally, that as a university, are we capping to our limit percentage of that what so-called internationalization in terms of bringing people that are not of foreign origin in South Africa, so that we know that we are not ballooning it, because there is a perception, Vice Principal, at UKZN that says that the university seems to be flushing again, I'm repeating, flushing locals over foreign academic staff. You can receive the holistic report of how many include the gender and race as well in it?
Through you, Chair, I will definitely provide that. I can tell you that we have, as a percentage of our total workforce, less than 4.5% who are of international origin. But I will break it down into gender and to countries as well, and I'll send that to you.
The reason, if we can get the reason, Vice Chancellor, that the two DVCs, Professor Mushabela and Ditesh, left in frustration of this university. What happened? How did they left the university? If you can take us through the reasons of why they left in this university, because where they went, they were regarded as a jewel of academia in the country. Where even they went, they were even promoted to higher position that they used to occupy here at UKZN. And it is known fact that they didn't live here out of their volition. They were pushed outside the university. Probably it could be they complain about something, or there's something that they were frustrated about, and then they left. So what made them leave? How their circumstantial leaving of the university happened?
Honourable Member, I'm not familiar with any tensions or any issues with the two fine colleagues who actually have left here to become Vice Chancellors. I think that's a positive thing for UKZN.
Repeat, VC.
They've left here to become Vice Chancellors, and that's a very positive thing for UKZN. And in one case, I actually promoted the person from a dean to a deputy Vice Chancellor here before they became Vice Chancellor elsewhere. Okay. So I was instrumental in that.
Do they do what we call exit interviews when they were leaving the institution?
We do exit interview, but I'm not sure whether they actually did exit interview because they were left to seek a better employment elsewhere.
Okay, HR, is HR have knowledge of whether they do exit interviews?
Honourable Chair, Honourable Member, no, I'm not aware of whether they did an exit interview or not.
So we actually don't know of the reason that they left, because there is an assertion that they left out of frustration of not getting promoted by this institution.
Honourable Member, I can't disprove a negative in the sense that I promoted one of them from a dean to a DVC. And once they get to a DVC and I'm already in position, they have to look elsewhere if they want to become a VC. And they did that, and I will wish them very well in that regard. There were certainly no issues here that I'm aware of. And in terms of the other candidate, they were a DVC here and they applied for the post before my time and didn't get it. But they left to go to another university to pursue their objectives from there. It's not abnormal in the higher education sector.
Okay, if there is, or you want...
Maybe just to intervene, I've paused your time, Honorable Nguban. Who's supposed to know if they did that particular interview, exit interview or not?
We've answered that. I think that's the head of HR.
Head of HR is saying he doesn't know. Head of HR, please respond to the question.
I personally, Honourable Member, don't know whether they did an exit interview or not. I would have to check through HR to see with the consultant who deals specifically with that college to see whether they in fact did an exit
interview. Please get us those records. It's extremely important that we get that information. You may proceed, Honourable Ngoban.
No, thanks, Deputy. It should be normal, HR, that anyone who lives in the institution does. You send, even if they've left, wherever I've left, even if I'm on another better employment, I receive an email that has a form that says, oh, Mr. Ngubane, you forgot to fill this form as an exit interview. Assist us so that now you are free, you are not pressured, wherever you are. Can you fill in this form? It's called an exit interview where we ascertain what really makes a lot of your cream people lives in drove if that is happening on the institution. Normally, all companies and institutions do that. Is there a policy for that at UKZN?
Are you asking me, Honourable Member? Yes, there is a policy and we do have a respective form, which we normally would ordinarily hand to somebody to complete and submit to us. My experience has been in some instances they do, in some instances they don't. But I'll have to check in this instance or both these instances whether they were afforded that opportunity and if they did exercise that, that choice, and come back to you.
VC, when we were there on that abandoned building, you promised us that on the presentation we will get everything, the cost, the person who was who embarked on that building and the consequence management. But on the presentation, there is nothing that we received related specifically to that over rest, because we had hope that we will get to know what happened, why it was started, and who initiated it, how it was built, if there were mistakes in building it, where consequence management were implemented, because there is a perception that the project was done haphazardly with an aim to suffer in the university money, and there is a perception that there is a lot of other projects like that that are quickly done haphazardly with the aim just to increase, just to venture into a wastage of the resources for the university. If you can explain on that.
Honourable Member, if I can ask Advocate Finden, who I tasked when this matter became material 4 years ago to look into it, he'll talk to you about it now, and then I'll come in when he finishes. Take it to the also.
Okay, you say you will take us through this. Okay. Oh, all right, okay.
May I proceed?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So, let me just preface by saying, Honourable Member, this happened long before my time.
Is it a long explanation? Because there's my time more.
It is, and there's a lot of underlying agreements that people need to understand in terms of the legalities and how they were entered into.
Is there a way you can summarize it, and then after that we send the whole of that document to?
Yes, if you would prefer that.
And so that we have it, but if you can summarize it so that I can be able to ask other questions.
Okay, so just to tell you in a nutshell that on the 17th of August 2006, the then council, in its wisdom, created what was called an awards committee, where a decision was taken to actually appoint a company by the name of Kauri Pty Limited to lease the land that the Oval Residence is currently on from the university. There was also further agreements entered into in terms of which Kauri agreed to construct the residences in compliance with all the legal requirements. And then there was a subsequent agreement also entered into at the same time, which was a leaseback agreement in terms of which the university would lease the residences from Kauri for a predetermined monthly amount until the 28th of February 2028. And the university took possession of the property in February 2008. And if you want me to, in the summary, I'll provide you with more detail around the structuring of the financial agreements that underpinned each one of these separate agreements that I've mentioned to you briefly. What then happened is that the university, it was obligated in terms of the agreements that had been entered into by this award team appointed by the University Council for maintaining that particular property, notwithstanding the fact that they were leasing it to another party. So they had to pay for the actual maintenance of the property, which they did. And then in 2020, there was issues relating to structural defects that became very, very material and began to show. And it was during the course of 2020 that the then EDRPG contacted my office, and I was Director of Legal Services at the time, and said that these defects had been determined and what was the position with regard to the university. Our research at the time in legal services provided us with all the agreements, but it provided us with a massive problem. What had actually transpired during the actual period concerned was that the original developer had loaned money through the Public Investment Corporation and the public, which was the PRC, I think it was called at that time, had collaborated also with the Infrastructure Finance Corporation Limited. Now, my understanding is that the PRC still exists, but the Infrastructure Finance Corporation Limited is no longer in existence. And what they did was they actually ceded further on the actual loan debt, which was the rental that they construed in these supporting documents in favour of Rand Merchant Bank. Now, the university was not aware of that session. It had never been made aware by Cowrie of that particular session. At the particular time that the EDIPG reported the defects that were becoming material in the building itself, we then looked at the underlying agreements, and it became evident that there was a possible claim against Cowrie, who was the original developer. And then the concern was also that it had been established that there was no permission granted for the building of that building at all. So what happened was that on the 23rd of October, with the intervention of the university with the municipality confirmed that Cowrie had never sought permission for the building of the structure, and that it was, for all intents and purposes, illegal. And then on the same day, they also issued a notice to indicate that the building was in such a state that it was not considered fit for habitation, and therefore that we were to remove our students immediately. So this was done immediately on the document notices received from the municipality. And subsequent to that, there was then a need to do a massive amount of research to get to the bottom of what was the relationships and all these agreements that had occurred over time and the final session. And this involved us instructing legal counsel, one a junior and one a senior, and it ultimately ended up with the senior counsel advising us that the university did not have a claim for breach of contract. There was no basis on which the university could bring a claim of breach of contract against any party. In addition, there was no possibility of us claiming that there was lack of authority. In fact, the advice was given that the council had entered into this agreement with their eyes wide open, this particular award team appointed by the council. And ultimately, in the third aspect of whether there was any fraud, it indicated that there was no evidence that there could be fraud. So you can imagine in 2006 now having to deal with something in 2020 and over 2021 to 2022 when the legal teams were working.
The report is too long. Can we then receive that report?
As you wish.
Yeah.
But also,
Just so you're saying you got a legal opinion that you can't get out of this lease agreement with this Cowrie thing.
Correct, Chair. No, it's no longer Cowrie, Honourable Chair. It's Rand Merchant Bank. So what happened was that the actual Cowrie sold the indebtedness that the university would have to Rand Merchant Bank, and he took value from Rand Merchant Bank. So the university is indebted to Rand Merchant Bank. He ceded that obligation to Rand Merchant Bank.
Even that on its own, you did not, so the university only went to this one senior counsel and got an opinion from that person alone.
No, there was two legal counsel opinions, one from Advocate Pittman and one from Annandale AC.
And both of them were agreeing that you've got no prospect of success in terminating a lease agreement from a company that gave you a corpse of a building.
Correct.
And yeah, switch off, advocate.
Chair, may assist a little bit.
Yeah.
We have exhausted significant resources in terms of trying to get this matter lawfully resolved. But the real stumbling block is that the process itself seemed to have been sanctioned by the council at the time with the full knowledge of what has now eventuated.
So your counsel might have been complicit to.
I can't venture that far, but certainly the liability will seem to be or rather the position of what we have been apprised of, is that the council at the time actually they created an irregular structure that maybe was regular then, but it wasn't through a normal procurement. Council set itself as a subcommittee to actually oversee the entire process at the time.
Yeah. So, well, I'm not a lawyer, but when we sign a contract, you say to me, or I say to you, I'm going to lease this iPad from you for 5 years. I'm going to pay you 10 rands a month. And I'm going to service this iPad. And when I take it to iPhone, what is that? Apple Store. I get there and they say to me, no, the system is not original. I'm certain, advocate, that I would have signed a contract based on what you promised is a product. And when we find that the product is not what we signed on, I do have a leg to stand on, that you've sold me a fake. You can't expect me to continue, whether it's now bought by the next person or not, but the original person should be liable to. I don't enter between you and R&B, whatever. It's my issue was between you and I, advocate, and you sold the debt to somebody else. But you've sold me fake. The building that you constructed has got structural defects. 1, 2, you've put a building there, or I've signed with you from a lie, or that you said these plans are approved by the municipality and they are not. So you have sold me a lie. I'm sure, Kuri, that's what I'm asking. Legally, for me, it doesn't make sense that the opinion you got was that there's no prospect of success under such conditions. It does not, unless you guys went and got senior, or you went to get legal advice from people who probably somehow do business with these people. Because no, let me make a point. Legal firms do work for these big corporates. Unless if you want to tell me you've vetted them again, and you're vetting, we have agreed that there's a problem. Because it doesn't make sense, BC. The person sold me a lie. I've signed a contract, and it's like when you write, what do you call it, a letter of intent. You say, developer, let's see, if you can build me this thing that you have put in their plans, I've got intention of putting students there. I come there, now I've built a structure that even when you're outside, you can see this one at any given day, it can even fly. You are under no obligation to put students there on the basis that we've signed a contract. You have given me a letter of intent. The letter of intent was on the basis that I'm going to deliver this product. This product is not what we agreed on. Any court, in my view, would rule in our favor and say, no. In fact, those people, all this 30 million that we've been paying a year, they must pay back. Because it does not make sense. I don't think that legal advice, well, I've not read the contract, but I'm assuming that the contract would have at least tried to a certain point to defend the interest of an institution from the lawyers of an institution. The lawyers' legal department, when they draft this thing, they look at how best can we protect our people, our clients. That's what lawyers do. So if you are saying to me, on the contract, this legal firm of these lawyers exposed us so much that then we must go after them. Must go and say, no, you are actually, you are the reason you signed this contract. It means this legal firm who must go after. It's them who must pay us. Because it can't be that we take responsibility over such things. Only two that I've given you. One, they probably lied that the municipality has approved these plans. One. Two, the structural defects. They did a shoddy job. Instead of using cement X, they use cement Y. That, erodes easily, whatever the case may be. So you have in my view, those two things, unless, like I said, I'm not an advocate, you wanted to say something. I still think we must revisit. This one, for me, doesn't make sense. We don't have these millions that we are paying these people. Yeah.
Honorable Chair, we haven't finished our pursuance of this matter. We've just we're at a stage of trying to decide on whether it's worth spending more money, trying to recover money that we might or might not recover. So it's a decision that has to be made ultimately by council. But as I speak to you now, it is not the management or indeed council's intent that the matter is going to be dropped.
Chair, when we were doing the oversight of the buildings, the Vice Chancellor communicated, because part of what I was asking during the walkabout, beyond what the HR has given us, is a breakdown of everything he gave us, but also the cost implications. But also there's a missing element. In the presentation that the department gave us, they have that building, there's the abandoned 100 beds, but they currently have 5 accommodation projects that are currently underway. So it's very difficult for us to sit here and have confidence that these 5 projects are going to pass the test of master for occupation if we still have a problem of the HR sticky mess that nobody knows how we got into it or how we're going to get out of it, and the abandoned building. So I know we don't have time, but I think this committee would appreciate a diagnostic review from yourself, Vice Chancellor, to say, this is where we went wrong, this is what we learned, and this is so that we know, okay, you've learned your lesson, we understand that you're no longer going to repeat it, and there's confidence that you have systems in place to make sure that at least for these contracts, you're able to not find yourself in the same mess again.
Through you, Chair, that is precisely what we intend to do. Indeed, under Council's guidance, that's exactly what we've been doing. I do need to perhaps also put on record that these matters took place over 20 years ago. But we have learned a lot since it came to light. Okay. The abandoned building is part of an ecosystem in the province at the moment where companies that were legitimate go bankrupt, and leaves us in a position where we're litigating at the moment for that as well.
Okay, thanks, Chair. VC, again, I'm going to repeat this. If really I'm getting it wrong, there is a perception that good people of the university, good academia, good professionals are living in droves. Do you see that or you don't see that? And once you've answered me after this, can we get, the report of your people that are joining the university and people that are leaving the university, a complete holistic report as well, could you? Which people are leaving the universities, maybe one line, the reasons as well, and the years, how are they living, and all those things. There is a perception that people are disgruntled Don't take this negatively, VC. It's a perception at university. They say, VC, you are just a puppet on top. You are not running the university. There are people who are running you behind. That's a perception that we are receiving.
Honorable member, I don't think anyone who have worked with me will agree with that assessment. I thought you were about to say that I run the ship as a dictator. But if I'm a puppet, then I think that is just not the case. I will give you statistics we have, but bear in mind that the general statement, like people are leaving in droves, needs to be substantiated. When, how, and whom. We've got a problem here where the environment of the province does not enable us to attract the very best or retain the very best here. That's a fact. We're all struggling to retain very top talent here. We're also the first university of research-intensive type to have gone full-on for transformation, which means that as other universities are struggling to meet their numbers, they will come and take our stuff. That's also a fact. So there's a real story to be told about the service provision that UKZN does to the sector as a whole. For me, that is the reason why we have so many of our alumni in so many good places. The challenge now is to build the next generation, and the presentation we gave you is committed to doing just that. But I will look into the exit, and I'll look into the reasons that we have. But I can almost certainly tell you that it's not because the place is falling apart. Far from it. Just to, through you, Chair, if I may just make the point that since my appointment, the university has been saved from bankruptcy. You don't do that and keep all the stakeholders reasonably constant if it was falling apart.
Okay. If we can get that report, we will appreciate it so that we can see the incoming and outgoing numbers and the reasons. Because the major point is there's been, if you can get as well an information about stakeholder engagement. The major point is that the universities abandoned a strong relationship with stakeholder engagement. Stakeholders like Sugar here in KZN, Durban Port, as well as the Toyota stakeholders. One of the reasons being put in place is that you abandon a project that was supposed to bring in money and skills to the university from Toyota. And the reason was that these Toyota skills are for technical and not for the universities. What it was going to bring money for the university. So those are the reasons that people feel that this university really has abandoned its core mandate. For example, there are certain scientists who are doing modeling work and logistics for the Durban port, and they are dismissed or actually not even supported, so that they feel like I'm not being utilized correctly at the university, and then they leave and they go. That's the reason they said you've abandoned strengthening the stakeholder relationship. People want to put in money in the universities to strengthen even the work that is going on in KZN, but you've abandoned it and then you're focusing somewhere else.
Through you, Chair, if I may. Honourable Member, I can only point you to the facts of the matter, which the facts of the matter is that UKZN performance across the board, certainly over the past 5 years, does not speak to the picture you've painted. And we are the ones, in terms of the first institutional administration in modern times, to try and actually not just build relations with the stakeholders, but position the academic project in service of the stakeholders. So the notion of the Durban port, I don't think any Vice Chancellor has been as committed to creating a maritime studies that actually focuses on the port economy as myself at the moment. The restructuring, I'll send you the strategy, speaks specifically to that. Partnerships, over the past 3 years, we've raised more from the local industries for our students than any administration over the past 10 years. I simply do not accept or indeed recognize the picture you're painting, but I will provide you with more evidence, which is the true factual position of the institution, if that is required.
And then the Toyota assertion, as well as the Sugar.
I can categorically say that I have met the CEO of Toyota, both nationally and also the local team. We are the ones trying to build relations with them. There hasn't been any proposal brought to my attention or in my time here that has actually been turned down. That would be fundamentally against the principles of what we're working towards.
All right, Chairperson, one last one. We know, VC, that there was a structural adjustments of the student housing that was implemented during, I think, 2024 academic year, following the receiving of NSFAS payment by the university. What we would like specifically know is what was the rationale behind those adjustments? What basis were those reductions or changes calculated? Where were the adjusted amounts accounted for within the university's financial system? And as well as we would appreciate any insight you can provide, VC, on this matter, so that we can understand better the context of it, as well as the purpose of these structural changes, if you can get that feedback.
Honourable Member, I'm not aware of any structural changes imposed by the university, but I am aware that with the advent of the NSFAS pilot, we were heavily dependent on NSFAS students coming to us, and that through that mechanism, we had to then, were in a position to use that funds to actually lease residence for the students. Once you take that away, then you've got only the residents that are owned by the institution. So that will naturally have an impact of dropping off the large numbers that were rented externally. And I think the figure that was given to you is that currently NSFAS is financing somewhere like 15,000 students who are not currently with the institution, and previously they would have been, in addition to our 11,000 that we currently have on our books, of which 7,750 are within our own residence. The rest, which is 392, are currently leases that we cannot renew because they were signed into before NSFAS pulled its services to the institution.
Okay, Chair, I think the other questions were for unions and for SRCs and more others. I think because my time is finished, we will submit them in writing if that's okay with you, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Honorable Lonzi asked a question. I could not hear the response when he said, at UKZN, don't we have other accommodation, student accommodation, where we have house students when we don't have occupation certificate, something like that? What was the response?
We do not have any that I'm aware of, and since the OVO became material, I have been very clear about finding out if any such buildings existed within our portfolio. Nothing has come up so far.
Okay, and do we have anybody here from student housing? No. Oh, there. Any comment on that?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. The last submissions that were made to the municipality for occupation certificates, we are waiting for a response from them, and I think EDIPG, because that is where it is done.
Yeah, that was not the question I asked. VC.
Chair, there's a distinction, I think, between applications we've got in the pipeline. That is procedurally correct.
Yeah.
Your concern is whether there's any more ovals in our portfolio that might come to light. And as I said before you now, I can assure you that from the knowledge we have, which the assessment we produce, there is no such thing.
Yeah, I don't want us to rely on the knowledge you have. That's why I want somebody from. Yeah. So are you saying currently, let's say, what is the rest that went to the new one? There's a rest that went to
Forest Hills.
E-block, is it E-block?
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Forest Hills.
So like for an example, you have students staying there, The question is, do we have residences across all 5 campuses, like where probably you have E-block? Do we have occupation certificates in all of them? The VC says according to his knowledge, and I'm trying to protect you, VC, because it's not your space. You rely on reports. Are we certain that we don't have? Yeah, she's applying for others. Maybe now I'm asking about this one.
For Forest Hills, Honorable Member, Forest Hills does have a occupation certificate. We can confirm that with
Let's leave Forest Hills.
IPG.
All of them have got occupation certificates.
The one honorable member that still awaits an occupation certificate is the one that was completed last year at Edgewood campus.
And it's empty.
It does have students.
So you have put students in an accommodation that does not have occupation certificate.
Yes.
And we have not given the VC that report because according to his knowledge, there's no such.
Honorable Chair, the occupation certificates, when the building is handed over to us as residence affairs, the building is handed over to us by infrastructure and then by CMS. So once they have got all the occupation certificates, then they say, here is a building, it's been completed, you can put your students in.
But that's not what happened at Edgewood, because you don't have the certificates.
As far as I'm concerned, yes, Chair.
And then that's also not what happened at Pure Zuma, because you also don't have an occupation certificate there. At Howard College. What is your response?
Honorable Chair, I can find out from
No.
CMS.
So you don't know who's responsible for student accommodation.
When it comes to,
what is your position there?
I'm the interim director, residence affairs.
So you are the Makulubas there. There's no one above you on student affairs or student residences.
I report to the PVC.
DVC.
No, Pro Vice Chancellor, Student Affairs.
Yeah. So, but you are the Makulubas there. And you don't know. No. Maybe, are you seconded there?
I'm on a fixed term contract.
On a fixed term contract?
That's correct.
Honorable Suzana says I must ask you, are you headhunted? You see this, so there's two. I can tell you in Pure Zuma, there's no occupation certificate. And we've put first years there. Parents give us, as a sector, their children. Some of them young females. They say, higher education, take care of our children. Here they are. And we do this. It's as if we don't care. We put them in an... Tomorrow we'll wake up and we'll be told that a student building fell on top of students and they all died. Then we'll be shocked. Because student affairs, what is student residences, the director of student affairs seems not to take this job serious. It's people's lives that we're playing with. And that's my biggest worry, Vice Chancellor. And that's why I wanted to remove you, so that because you put your head on the block, or no, there's no such. And that's why I said, Shane, you are being fed reports. You rely on reports. You're unlikely going to see all of these residences yourself. You are a CEO of this big institution. You must take strategic decisions. We don't expect you to go to residences and know that there's a residences O block that has structural a problem. You see, it's cracked, a big crack there inside. We don't expect you to know that. We expect you to know once the reports come. But if the reports that come to you are compromised, then we're going to have a problem. And you can tell at student residences, we have problems because we met, was it Kumar? HOD Kumar. Big crack on the ground floor. So there is an upper floor that is weighing heavily also on this thing. We ask him, Chief, what is this? He's telling us this building was built in 1962. Yeah? I had to stop him. I told him, we have been, this year, the oldest building we've been to was in Potchefstroom at the Northwest University, built in 1922. When you enter there, state of the art. Why? Because there's a maintenance plan. You plan, you say, I am going to do X, Y, and Z at this time. Those things won't come. But if you neglect, you enter the ceiling, you can tell this ceiling can fall at any time. Ceiling. What makes a ceiling like that? It's when there's a leak in the roof. There's one leak in the roof. When it rains, Durban is a rainy place. When it rains, in the small thing that you can close with 50 rands, you buy that thing that they paint on top of the roof, and then problem solved. But they allow it to grow. Every day water goes in, it moves slowly there, then it damages the whole ceiling. Then the university does not have money to now replace this unplanned problem. Because if you put a ceiling and the roof is good, that ceiling can last you a lifetime. Correct? But now we must and I'm making an example with a small thing like a ceiling to augment the point that I'm trying to make, that we must take our jobs as student residents serious. Lights. Those kids there, those young girls, it means they can't shower at night because the lights don't work, the whole shower. Lights, globe, it's just to change a globe. And I wanted to ask HOD Kumalo there. I told him, hey, you are going to now stress us. He's going to tell us about supply chain processes. I can guarantee you, let's not stress us. It's too early in the morning. So I don't understand, honestly. It's like we're dealing with animals. We're dealing with human beings. Many of them funded by the state through NSFAS because they come from poor families. So it's as if we're treating these poor kids this way just because they're poor. We don't care about them. It can't be. Because if they were not, they'll probably stay somewhere. Their parents will hire them a villa somewhere here next to Westville. But they stay there because they've got no other place. And then we still treat them like second-class citizens. Now you are lying in Parliament. Asked you a question. Is that the only thing, the only rest? In fact, I'm asking you, when Honorable Lonzi asked, you allowed the VC to answer, knowing full well that you have given him a false report. You made him to give an inaccurate or a false answer in Parliament. I come back and I ask. You then contradict the answer of the VC. You say it's only one at Edgewood. I'm confirming to you that that's not true. Because Simpue Zuma there has got the same problem. Lying in Parliament. I said here, assume when you ask you a question that we know the answer. Because if you try and be creative, we've got Powers, Privileges and Immunities Act that prohibits people lying. You know, I have so many questions. I've lost appetite of asking them because I'm going to ask questions and people are going to lie to me. And you're going to force us to do things that we don't want to do, to strengthen, to activate certain laws that we don't want to do it. Like I said, we want to work together in making sure that we get this institution right. We'll try again. Honorable Lungs, you had a follow-up, I'll give you as well. You had a follow-up, I think I've lost confidence.
No, so there are more, maybe for your information, VC, and I think you'll have to pay closer attention to this, VC. And the chair is quite correct. The benefit we have is that we've got, and I think Honorable Msezane said this, we've got stakeholders in the university, we've got constituencies who from time to time will give us these reports. So you're misled, VC. There are more residences, even more than one, not only is Pure Zuma, by the way, Chair. There are more than two residences at UKZN where students are currently residing and they don't have occupational certificates. And we don't even have to go far because the head of residence, when asked, says we're in the process of applying. So that response alone should have been given it up in what is happening. So my only question, VC, is that which I hope you will do. What solution is there in the immediate? Of course, God forbid, we hope nothing will happen. The building is not going to collapse or anything of that sort. But I think already all of us appreciate the risk on the lives of students if we have buildings where they stay and we're not sure about whether or not these buildings are in good condition. So when you discover that this one and that one and that one, they don't have these certificates, what are going to be the immediate steps that the university is going to take to ensure that we protect the lives of students? Because we're using worst case scenario examples, but we don't want to come back here one day and say, we told you so, and that time we have lost 10 lives or 20 lives because a building that was not supposed to be accredited was accredited. And I'm very happy with how decisive you were over, because you simply said, they don't have an occupational certificate, I'm removing my students. Even though it was 800 and something, you're quite decisive. I'm not going to allow students to stay here if this building is not in a good state. So I wonder, when you discover that there are more than one, what are going to be your most immediate steps? And then, since I won't come back again, Chair, I like a lighter note, because these meetings tend to be too tense. I thought, VC, when you were mentioning your alumni, You will say Ukzn has produced the chairperson of a portfolio committee of higher education.
And the deputy chairperson. And the deputy chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honourable Member, thank you for the light note, but I think the subject is very somber. And there are two directions to take. One is, of course, to take effective corrective measures in relation to the students who are there. The second, of course, is to discipline those who lie to me.
No, thank you very much for your indulgence, Chairperson. VC, in fact, before VC, Chair, you know, the number of issues that have flooded my phone since this engagement started are so much that, you know, I know yours is also buzzing the whole time, that I would should maybe discuss looking at maybe a possible scenario where we might be able to invite Ukzn to Cape Town next year, maybe early next year if possible, depending on the program, to maybe deliberate more on issues. Maybe at that time we might even get an update from the Vice Chancellor on these other pending issues. But maybe mine is not really going to be just one follow-up question, but I'll just request something in terms of in writing. After the matter of the interim director of student affairs, Umamumaki, there is a request that we request for a process that was used in hiring her. We are told that she was headhunted, as I was saying, Chair. So if we could just get a report, but that can be confirmed or rejected. But if we can just get a report of the recruitment process and all of those things, how she was hired and all of that. And then we're also told that there's a maintenance plan, Vice Chancellor, as we speak about these issues of maintenance, at about 58 million a year, which is normally exhausted very, very early before the conclusion of the year. If you can just get a breakdown of the past 3 years of what the maintenance budget was doing in residences. And finally, Chair, there is a report, CFO, that the institution has bought at least 22 seaters. 22-seater minibuses, taxis, that is a 22-seater, 22 of them that you've bought, and allegedly they're already here at Westville campus. So if I could just get from you if that is accurate or not, if it is, what budget was it? And obviously if you have a license to operate, if you're going to be operating for residencies or maybe just for your students, maybe in health sciences and all of that. I think, Chair, from there I can subside. Thank you very much.
Yes, it is accurate that the university has purchased about 22 buses. They are for the College of Health Sciences to transport students to the decentralized clinical training sites. And the funding for those purchases is from the clinical training grant.
You don't require a license, just on that 2 point. You don't require a license for that, though. It's just because it's a small cohort, I believe.
I don't know whether we require a license for it or not, but the college has done the required due diligence in terms of what would be required. The buses are not currently being operated as they have just been delivered, and we're in the process of basically getting them into operation.
Okay. We'll write to you the questions for you guys to respond, because like I said, I had many questions, but I don't like us to engage when the tempers are a bit high. So just to note, you said you are losing a lot of experienced employees to the sector. You came short of saying you are a feeder to the sector and given, but the reason that is the case is what labor raised. That if you compare to the industry standard, they are paid rate or they are paid less as compared to others. Even myself, it means I won't work. Yeah. I can come and work 1 year, 2 years experience, and then once I have it, I'll go, because it's human nature that people work so that they can have a better life. And if they can have a better life by getting a better salary somewhere, they will go. So maybe as you restructure, Chairperson of Council, let's think, obviously within our means, might not happen overnight. You might agree on a 4 or 5 year plan and say, look, based on X, Y, and Z, this is what we'll think of doing. I'm sure your service delivery chain, your workers are your service delivery champions. And when they are discouraged, service won't be delivered, or it will be delivered at a slow pace. So reconsider maybe sitting with them, negotiating, maybe a 4 or 5 year plan over and above your LRA meetings or that committee where you negotiate with them. That will help. That will help the institution. Would have wanted, before we started after lunch, because elections are currently happening, Honorable Sitlelonsi, would have loved to see the back office of this online election. Just to sit there and see a student vote, how are they processed to get to where they're finally going to be seen by somebody else. Because, look, we are people of technology, but we're people of transparency and the integrity of the process. If no one sees the results coming through, we only see the final result, they're going to question them. They're going to say, no, this is installing people that he wants, probably that he has a relationship he wants to control. But for transparency and the integrity of the process, we would have wanted, we had said to the CFO just after we ate, we could not say that before we ate. We needed to eat. So after lunch, we were saying, we want to go see this thing when we log off. And then she discouraged us, said, no, you won't see it, it's in the cloud. When she says it's in the cloud, she's telling you, yeah, it's not, we can't see this thing. Those students are voting there. We don't know. I mean, professors of mathematics, will tell you about algorithm. You create a system. You can create a product from here. And whatever happens here does not affect the product that you've created. So when we ask nicely, can we have integrity on this online election? We don't want to, I don't remember if you guys wrote to us last year when we were asking you. I can't remember, register. I don't remember if you were part of those ones who wrote to us and told us that we're overreaching. But this is the context. The integrity of this process is extremely important. Because we don't want, because there are allegations everywhere that these things are rigged, not necessarily you, but in the system. These things are rigged. The product is already cooked somewhere in January. Around May, you already know who is going to win because, you've trained them. You tell them you're coming to council. You have prepared them. And the product is already, but we don't want to believe those things. That's why I wanted to go see. Oh, this is the back office. When we see here, it means I can bring 10 students there, sit here and help them vote, and then I'll see the vote coming in there. So that's what we wanted to check so that I'll give you.
Our people are saying the operating center is at medical school. Our people there, they are saying
No, VC, run your elections independent. Don't allow overreach, VC. You are doing very well.
Yeah, I'm worried, VC, about. So let's look into this thing. Sometimes when we write to you, maybe context sometimes lacks in the letter, but this is where we came from. That, and we don't want to be dealing with a lot of disputes from the students complaining about the department not responding, you guys being rude and arrogant towards them, and that's not what we want to. So part and parcel of what we'll write to yourself is that amongst many allegations, I think that Honorable Ngubane raised, is that there seems to be a view that the institution, and this is where I think Honorable Lonzo will disagree with you if it's true, that the institution is reversing the insourcing progress that was made by when people leave, like where Lovemore is. What is that place? When a person leaves who was employed in Tenor, you bring in a consultant to run the show. So that's reversing insourcing. The person was working internally, now you are taking it to a consultant. So there seems to have that view that you guys are reversing insourcing, and maybe look at it. Sometimes you'll take it like you'll say, well, it's only 2-3 people, but the perception that is uncontested becomes the truth. So maybe look at that VC with your team. So the things that we're going to request from you, today is what? The 9th, yeah. Thursday the 9th. We'll ask you next week, Friday, to give us the following documents. Because according to your knowledge, there was vetting of this Lovemore Kuma. We'll ask you to give us those documentation on him, because according to our records, when Professor Mafoba was here, this person was charged for corruption at the very same institution. And when consequence management processes began, he resigned. And then he comes back as a consultant, and then ultimately, without a competitive process, he's then brought back in a much more bigger position. And CFO, I had asked you to get me some fees, amounts, and the scope you have there.
Chair, I think I had thought that the conclusion, based on what the VC had requested, was that let's put together a comprehensive report instead of dealing with the bits and pieces. But I do have it. But it was going to go into that report.
Okay, that was not what we had requested, but it's fine. You'll give us next week, Friday. You'll give all of us. You'll give us how much we're paying this consultant, the process and the scope that you had given them. There's a perception again, Vice Chancellor, that the institution spends a lot of money on legal cases against workers. In fact, they go as far as saying for every misconduct you hire some attorneys from outside to deal with workers, and they believe that this independent teams that are brought to deal with these cases are given a mandate because there's only one outcome that they are seeing. Maybe if you can give us a breakdown of how much we spend on legal cases against workers. So the rest we'll find it ourselves on the annual report, how much we've spent on legal fees, but we want you to indicate how much you've spent on legal fees against workers. So you'll give us this recruitment report of Navmo Kumalo and this Nkosi person I spoke about, who, according to these people, is now running Howard College RMS. So it get us those reports and the process that was followed on Nkosi, because the assumption there was that we don't know. But then you'll have time to go look at that, and then you'll give it to us. There was a success rate report that was requested, breaking it down. So please give us that thing. On the 16% non-success rate, break it down to gender, break it down to age, race, nationality, and all of that. You break it down for us. Maybe because what Honorable Ngubane was asking about the number of you see this weight, no? It gives me problems every day, but I'll attempt again. Internationalization, that one. It gives me a problem all the time. So the report that we'll require here will be on the postgraduate studies. Maybe give us the stats on our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, and then those who are NRF funded in those postgraduate studies that are non-South African. Because the assumption, or not the assumption, the perception out there is that we take a lot of money from the National Research Fund that is meant to fund South Africans to do postgraduate. The stories out there that we take huge chunks of it and we sponsor our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, not South Africans. So if you can give us those stats, you'll say NRF in South Africa and UKZN gave us 800 million, and out of this 800 million, these 24 South Africans who are doing this NRF funded postgraduate cost 80 million, and the rest 720 million goes to our brothers and sisters from the diaspora. We'll also like to get this from you on the consequence management. Maybe what are you going to do in writing? Say, because I mean, even that 100 beds that is now abandoned, how much have we paid there? In terms of percentage, what we paid is equivalent to the delivery. And if from a university point of view, we had project managers who were supposed to safeguard the interest of the university, and we've paid 80%, that thing is too far from being completed. Maybe we've paid 80% of the budget, and that is why the company is filing for insolvency. They are running away because they realize now that the 20% that is left, in TikTok, the 20% that is left, sorry, Dr. Arons, I thought it's these people from the department. So, because they realize that the 20% that is left will not cover much ground. But there's somebody internally. Yes, we're fighting those people in court, we want our money, no problem. But internally, the people from the institution who allowed this madness to continue, what have we done? Because there must be somebody to be held accountable. If we do that 2-3 people properly, I can tell you, VC, the mentality will change. People will then realize that time to play is finished. We must now roll up our sleeves, go to work. And so you must demand these responses from your executive management. And let's do our work as council members, because you are given a huge responsibility to oversee, to do oversight. Moving away from oversee because you've created an oversee position. So, well, I don't want to use that word. Tomorrow you'll say, I agree with the word oversee. No. So council members are given huge responsibilities to do oversight over this. The Department of Higher Education and Training is around 157 billion budget. Almost 80 billion goes to university. So you are given a serious responsibility to do oversight over such a big government. Takes you serious. As board members, let's execute our responsibility. And we don't have to agree. This thing, as board members, we go to a meeting. Before a meeting, the chair calls people first. Hey, chief, HM4, you must, in fact, when you know you are going to a meeting, when the chair calls, you must not answer. Because you know she wants to lob you on item 4 or item 5. Let's not that. Let's go there with open mind and argue or differ properly. Say, no, on this one, Vice Chancellor, we don't agree. We think this proposal that we have brought will not help the university, or we have not applied our minds properly. I've read this thing, I've not understood it. I wanted a presentation from executive management. I see it now. I need to apply my mind. Chair, maybe let's have a meeting sitting online, or the following day, so that we can deal with this matter. Let's give all we have to these institutions. They are supposed to be institutions that are going to, or that must produce, must be the factory of this country. The economy of this country is struggling. Both workers and the students, they said, and the VC, I think, in your presentation or earlier on, the chair, indicated that if you are doing a review of the degrees and aligning how certain schools and are structured, because you want to respond to the economic needs of this country. It must not only be at that strategic level, including what we produce, the product that we take out must not only be good or make sense on paper. It must make sense when that person stands up and says, I'm from University of KwaZulu-Natal, I've studied BSc Pure and Applied Physics. This company should be saying, yeah, we can share. Because, one, they will know that the people who come from there, they understand there's integrity there. The integrity, not only the integrity of the qualification, but the integrity of the person. These people are ethical. Their morals are in check. So, but if we do these wrong things, labor tomorrow, they strike, they buy some unethical people to burn cafeteria because this unethical person called Debo is on the panel to fix if that thing happens. And I know they are going to choose me because I've got a relationship with SCM or the CFO. Guru can tell everything there. It's not right. So let's try. I think we will work with you trying to get things right. These companies that there was a request that you bring the 5 projects, who's doing what there, which companies appointed where. Because again, the perceptions, they will say, no, the people who do these things is Blue Dot. Is it Blue Dot? What is that company? Yeah. But no. Those ones, they work with Blue Dot. Blue Dot, I don't know what is that. So give us names of those people. But people don't finish projects. We must not only blacklist them internally, we must name and shame them. We must say Tebogo was a director of that Blue Dot. It abandoned site. We must write to the department, say DDG, responsible for universities, we've got this problem. You have given us money. I'm told you also withdraw from SHIP program. I will write to you so that you explain properly, because the department must tell us, I've created a proper program there, but I told you guys are withdrawing on it because you are charged too much interest. And, so we want the department to answer, but we'll write to you part of the questions. This SHIP program, why did we withdraw from it? So we'd like to thank you, Council, all council, including you. I'm told you're a council member, you're telling us, no, this back and forth. Don't do back and forth in the council. But we'd like to thank you, council members. We're supposed to finish around 4, but we apologize for keeping you here, and I hope none of you have been left by flights. We really appreciate. I know some of you did not, but sitting in this meeting, I'm sure you have picked up certain things that you guys might need to take with the management. VC, you and your entire executive management would like to thank you. Like I said earlier on, our engagement are not necessarily always this cordial. It was cordial today, very soft. Yeah, my members were very soft today. They were laughing, It's not always the case. So it tells that even though their problems are not too big. We can fix them. The first thing we must deal with is a relationship with your service delivery champions, your labor, your workers. It will go a long way, trust me. And then we want to thank you, Labor IF. Thank you very much. Part of the report of IF was saying, everything is fine. And then when members ask questions, I saw the chairperson of IF going outside. But he eventually came back. Thank you, IF. Convocation.